Chapter 253. Although Wei Renjie was a layman in martial arts, he was by no means a fool since he had made it to where he was today. Besides, he had learned a lot in the past 6 months. Seeing Lu Cheng still standing in the arena on the second day of the double elimination competition, he instinctively made a judgment. This kid is not simple. He is at least a professional 9th pin fighter, and not an ordinary one. Not to mention the first 5 rounds of matches. Just looking at the results of the first day of double elimination, one could come to this conclusion. Yesterday morning, there were 39 matches and 39 losers. In the afternoon, there were also 39 matches, and 32 of the 39 losers accumulated to the second round and were eliminated. What did this mean? It meant that those without real skills had been completely squeezed out. Wei Renjie's mouth was half open, and his mind was full of thoughts. Finally, he put away his slightly lost expression and ordered in a low voice, "Goldie, get me the information on Lu Cheng. Quickly, as soon as possible." Before Goldie could do anything, Wu Qingwei had already taken out his mobile phone, found the information in his collection, and handed it over. After finding out from his daughter that their new coach was unexpectedly strong, as a qualified father, he had already investigated Lu Cheng's situation thoroughly. However, he didn't dare to take the initiative to ask because he couldn't figure out Wei Renjie's attitude. At this moment, the information he collected finally came in handy. Wei Renjie took it and skimmed through it quickly. The more he read, the more shocked he became. When he read the words, "less than a year of martial arts practice," he couldn't help but pull at the knot of his tie. His neck was strangled, and he seemed to have difficulty breathing. Beside him, Wu Tingkai didn't notice his reaction. She joined Zhang Qiufan and other friends and sat side by side in the seats closest to the second arena. Next to them were Xing Jingjing and Gu Shuang. In the broadcasting room of Xing Province Satellite TV, the host asked the guest commentator, "Teacher Yu, I've read Lu Cheng's profile and found that this young man is extraordinary. He started practicing martial arts as soon as he entered university, and in less than a year, he's already at the top of the professional 9th pin. His future is limitless. He's a rising martial arts star in our province. How likely do you think he is to defeat Lu Xuanzhen?" Yu Hong was the senior vice principal of the police academy in Xing Province. He was in the Dan stage at the inhuman level. He laughed and said, "It's hard to say. For now, I can't see how much progress this kid has made compared to 2 months ago. Lu Xuanzhen's supernatural ability is very interesting. If you haven't reached the Dan stage, you won't be able to practice absolute reaction. If you encounter him, you'll basically have no chance. Even if you're in the 8th pin Dan stage, you'll be in danger if you make a mistake." After watching the highlights of Lu Cheng's previous matches, he had seen more hidden things than Lu Xuanzhen, Han Ying, and Xiong Yu. It was not easy for him to make a judgment, so he decided to analyze Lu Xuanzhen's supernatural ability perfunctorily. Yenjika's clear voice echoed in his ears. Lu Cheng walked into the ring and stood opposite Lu Xuanzhen. His fighting will accumulated in his heart and his spirit penetrated his body. The referee did not waste any time and announced in a clear voice, "Conversation time starts now." Lu Cheng looked at the teenager and smiled slightly. "To be honest, this is the first time I've fought with a fighter with supernatural ability. I'm a little nervous." These were his heartfelt words, but not all of them. He wanted to create an image to paralyze Lu Xuanzhen and create opportunities for himself to use his next moves. His strategy was to beat the slow with speed, to attack the weak with one's strong points. No matter how strong Lu Xuanzhen's psychokinesis was, it showed no signs of strengthening his body. In other words, his reaction, speed, and agility were all at the level of a normal professional 9th pin fighter. Once he couldn't keep up with his own movements, how effective could his psychokinesis be? A weapon that couldn't hit the enemy was useless no matter how strong it was. The only problem was that under normal circumstances, a professional 9th pin fighter should be able to keep up with the movements of an 8th pin fighter in the Dan stage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to challenge Wei Xingtian and Zhou Jingquan. Lu Xuanzhen had a pair of deep eyes that seemed to be able to drown others. He smiled back. "This is also the first time I've met a professional 9th pin fighter who has mastered Tremor Punch and the core force of the Ice Sect. No, you should be quite close to the dance stage, so I won't hold back. Not holding back meant that he would not deliberately avoid the sensitive parts. Hearing this, Lu Cheng felt a chill between his legs again. He didn't know if Lu Xuanzhen was bluffing to make him unable to use his full strength, or if he really wanted to fight to the death. He took a breath and all kinds of emotions began to settle down. His will was strong and the source of his strength was awakened. Since this was the case, let's go all out. The two of them, each with their own thoughts, stopped talking and let the time pass by. The referee raised his right hand and waved it down under the nervous gazes of Qi Fang, Chao Lele and the others. Begin. While the voice was still echoing, Lu Cheng's qi, blood, force, spirit and other physical and non-physical senses all shrank and condensed into a dan that was bigger than a dot and smaller than a thumb. Force concentration and Dan stage burst out. He didn't hold back at the beginning. Boom. The mass of essence, qi, spirit, and will expanded rapidly and exploded violently. The surrounding stars were flung out and turned into a spiral force that surged violently into Lu Cheng's feet. Bam! The green bricks exploded. Lu Cheng was like a fierce eagle. Using distance reduction, he closed the distance between them in the blink of an eye and pounced on Lu Xuanzhen. Facing such an explosive attack, Lu Xuanzhen didn't panic. He stretched out his hands and pulled backward. As soon as Lu Cheng sensed it, he discovered that there was an invisible rope tied around his wrists, pulling him forward. Under normal circumstances, this kind of pull wouldn't affect him at all, but at this moment, he was pouncing forward ferociously. 4 ounces could lift 1,000 pounds. He was like a boulder that had been pried open and lost his balance. He couldn't stop and staggered forward. Lu Xuanzhen dodged sideways. His eyes were dark and shimmering. His right hand moved quickly. Lu Cheng was about to use mercurial balance to regain his balance when his left foot tripped over an invisible obstacle. His rhythm was completely disrupted and he was on the verge of falling. This time, it wasn't a direct attack. He couldn't use absolute reaction. Lu Xuanzhen's expression didn't change. He clenched his hands into fists and pounded inward. He seized the opportunity to attack Lu Cheng's temples with psychokinesis. These were the vital points of the human body. Even if his psychokinesis wasn't enough, it was enough to make his opponent dizzy and lose his ability temporarily. At this moment, Lu Cheng took a deep breath. All the qi, blood and force in his body condensed at his dantian. This allowed him to stand steadily with his waist lowered and no longer staggered. As soon as he steadied himself, he felt the sharp pain in his temples. He shrunk his neck like a turtle retracting its head. Bam! Lu Cheng, who reacted in time, still couldn't completely avoid the attack. The invisible fist hit the edge of his skull. For a moment he saw stars and felt annoyed. He had underestimated Lu Xuanzhen. In the stands, Zhang Zhutong muttered to himself in surprise, "That's right. He hasn't completely entered the Dan stage yet and he can make 2 consecutive bursts? Is this the so-called abnormal physical strength?" His female companion was confused. She didn't understand what he was talking about. Zhang Zhutong put away his surprise and smiled solemnly. "Mother, I didn't expect Lu Xuanzhen's supernatural ability to improve so much. He didn't even need to touch his body to become an invisible barrier." To him, this was much more threatening than Lu Cheng's 2 consecutive bursts. Han Zhifei touched the scar on his face again. He said to Han Ing and Xiong Yu thoughtfully, "He's really something. This should be Lu Cheng's limit. Today's match will be very difficult for him." Xiong Yu sighed. In the arena, the qi, blood and force in Lu Cheng's dantian exploded again and gushed out. Bang! He was like a detonated cannonball, shooting toward Lu Xuanzhen. No, not where Lu Xuanzhen was standing, but a few meters away from him. Lu Xuanzhen couldn't keep up with Lu Cheng's explosive attack. When Lu Cheng landed, he raised his hands and tried to gouge his opponent's eyes. At this moment, Lu Cheng's explosive strength and surging qi and blood contracted again. He made another force concentration. Triple bursts. Xiong Yu opened his mouth slightly. Boom! Lu Cheng took advantage of the midway turnaround and the more turbulent outburst to change his direction, making Lu Xuanzhen's psychokinesis miss. It wasn't because he predicted his opponent's attack, but because he had planned to do so. Relying on the explosive strength of the pseudo-Dan stage, he was going to fight like never before. Only in this way could Lu Xuanjun, a professional ninth pin fighter, not be able to keep up with his movements and lock onto him. A few meters was nothing to the explosive strength of the Dan stage. In the blink of an eye, Lu Cheng was in front of Lu Xuanjun. He raised his right hand and tightened his muscles. Lu Xuanjun had rich experience in fighting with Dan stage fighters. His eyes were calm. His left hand grasped upward and used invisible peach stealing. His right hand pressed forward and used immortal shows the way. He was fighting an attack with an attack, making the first move in an instant. But all of a sudden, his vision blurred and he lost sight of Lu Cheng. This quadruple bursts! Xiong Yu exclaimed in shock. Just as Lu Xuanjun's hands were about to move, Lu Cheng finished the process of force concentration and eruption. He bounced his back and moved to the back of his opponent at an unimaginable speed. This was not a premonition, but a preparation to make Lu Xuanjun unable to keep up with his movements. This was the essence of guerrilla fighting. At this moment, his right arm was still in the air and his muscles tightened again. Lu Cheng swung his arm and used Thunder Roar Zen. Lu Xuanjun didn't even have the chance to turn around, let alone attack his opponent's weak point. He only had time to turn his body sideways and wrap his arm with psychokinesis to block the attack. Bang! The bomb exploded and the impact swept across. Lu Xuanjun's weak psychokinesis was shattered and his body was also affected. His joints and fascia were trembling and he couldn't use his strength. At this moment, Lu Cheng didn't attack first. Instead, he took a breath and gathered his qi, blood, spirit, and force to form the Dan again. Quintuple bursts. It wasn't Xiong Yu who blurted out, but Han Zhifei and Zhang Zhutong. Boom! The force in Lu Cheng's body surged. He swayed his center of gravity and flashed away from Lu Xuanjun's back. Lu Xuanjun, who was still in shock, clenched his fist without hesitation and ignited his psychokinesis for the last and strongest counterattack. Bush, bush, bush. The gravel on the ground flew toward Lu Cheng, aiming at his eyes, temples, nose bridge, dantian, and other vital points. At the same time, the invisible force danced wildly like a rope swinging in the air. However, all of this fell into the air. Lu Cheng had already rushed out of this range with the power of the Dan stage explosion. He had a deep impression of Lu Xuanjun's psychokinesis explosions that turned the tables several times. Even so, a piece of cloth had been torn from his trousers, making him feel cold. Lu Cheng took a deep breath as soon as his feet touched the ground. The surging qi and blood flowed back again, forming the Dan again and exploding again. Boom! The black bricks exploded. He pounced on his enemy like a wolf or a tiger, swinging his arms and punching wildly. Lu Xuanjun didn't have time to react and fell to the ground softly. Xiong Yu stood there in a daze and muttered to himself, "Sextuple bursts? You're not even in the Dan stage yet, buddy. Are you still a damn human?" Chapter 254. Lu Xuanjun detonated his psychokinesis and was hit by Thunder Zen 3 times. Due to his physique as a professional ninth pin and the fact that he couldn't visualize or use the internal training method to weaken the effect, he collapsed to the ground. His head was buzzing and he felt soft all around him. He was so disgusted that he broke out in cold sweat and wanted to vomit. Seeing his body trembling and twitching from time to time, the referee closed his eyes and nodded to Lu Cheng with a kind face. Then he raised his right hand and announced the result loudly. Lu Cheng wins the second round. With a boom, the whole audience was in an uproar. Most of the audience paid attention to this match because of the seeded player and were full of expectations for Lu Xuanjun's psychokinesis. They didn't expect such an unexpected result. An ordinary professional ninth pin fighter who didn't stand out before showed an amazing burst of power. It took him less than a minute to end the match and defeat the seeded player. Lu Cheng? Who is he? Why is he so powerful? Similar thoughts echoed in the minds of many audience members, making them eager to know more about this young fighter. Unlike the audience in front of the TV and computer screens who had already heard the commentator's introduction, they could only take out their mobile phones and quickly type on the keyboard. This was the so-called artificial intelligence. Yes, artificial intelligence plus intelligence. For a moment, except for the uproar, there were not many cheers and applause in the audience. He won just like that? Lu Cheng's mother, Qi Fong, was the kind of person who just watched the fun. On one hand, she was happy that her son seemed to have won the seeded player, but on the other hand, she was surprised that her son was so fast and agile. Yes. Jiang Fei, Cheng Qili and Tao Xiaofei all answered in a daze. It wasn't that they didn't imagine Lu Cheng would win, but they didn't expect him to win so quickly and so easily. Cheng's strength is so strong that it's beyond our imagination again. When Lu Xuanzhen's opponent needed to cover his eyes to protect his crotch and still failed inexplicably, those who watched Lu Xuanzhen's battle videos would feel their hair stand on end. However, if Lu Xuanzhen fell into a disadvantageous position and was defeated by his opponent in one fell swoop, it would be difficult for the ordinary audience to see how much the invisible psychokinesis had played in the battle. It would also be difficult for them to appreciate the danger of walking on a tightrope in the process. As a result, they would feel that Lu Xuanzhen had failed to put up any resistance at the beginning of the battle and allowed his opponent to win easily. Isn't it said that the seeded player is the favorite to win the championship? Lu Cheng's father, Lu Jisheng, couldn't help feeling puzzled at the same time. Brother Lu Cheng is better. He is the favorite to win the championship. Qi Yunfei shouted excitedly, looking at the big screen. Beside her, Ma Shi and Chen Xiaoxiao also nodded in agreement. In the previous match, Lu Cheng's pouncing and moving speed were so fast that the unprepared close-range camera couldn't follow his movements. Therefore, the broadcast on the big screen was changed to a distant view, so the audience could only see the whole picture but not the details. It was not much different from directly staring at the arena. At this moment, the close-up view was replayed in slow motion. Only then did Qi Yunfei and the other girls realize that after Lu Cheng's dance stage burst, his muscles bulged and his fascia protruded. His entire person seemed to have grown a little taller, making people feel that he was majestic, full of strength, and manly. Yes, manly. The favorite to win the championship. Chao Lei covered her mouth and whispered to herself. Qiu Hailin showed both disbelief and inexplicable excitement at the same time. Sextuple explosion. Zhang Judong's hands in his pockets were clenched into fists. He subconsciously turned around and looked at Han Zhifei, Qiu Lin, and the other top 5 seeded players. He saw the same shock in their eyes. Compared to professional 8th pin, professional 7th pin dance stage didn't have much of a transformation. However, those who could pass the ranking event and rise among the professional 8th pin must have improved in some aspects. For example, they had mastered a certain force, could complete sextuple explosion, sextuple explosion, sextuple explosion, and octuple explosion, had better control of the body, could slightly influence the details of the body, and improved strength, agility, and speed after breaking the limits of the human body. All in all, they were only shocked and surprised by Lu Cheng's sextuple explosion. They didn't expect a guy who hadn't completely stepped into the dance stage to be able to do this. They weren't particularly afraid of this dark horse. It was the same for the supernatural fighters whose combat strength was equal to professional 7th pin. Of course, with their insight, it wasn't difficult to see some facts. There was only one thought in their minds. If they were going to meet Lu Cheng in the knockout, they'd better do it as soon as possible. Lu Cheng was infinitely close to the dance stage. If they gave him a few more opportunities to practice, he might really enter the professional 8th pin. If they didn't take advantage of the fact that he was still weak, what were they waiting for? More importantly, his abnormal physical strength was directly exposed. With the tight schedule, the more they fought, the more obvious his advantage would be. What a monster! Zhang Zhutong's glamorous female companion looked around, not understanding their reactions. She only understood that the young fighter standing in the arena seemed to be very strong and could be called a strong opponent. Sextuple explosion? Gu Shuang had a standard cherry mouth, but it was now in an O shape. Although she had only trained to strengthen her body and didn't walk the path of martial arts, among her close friends, Yan Zheke and Xing Jingjing were closely related to martial arts. She was more or less influenced and knew a lot about martial arts. Naturally, She knew what the explosion of the dance stage was and what several explosions were. Most professional 8th pin dance stage fighters couldn't do sextuple explosion, right? Xing Jingjing pursed her lips and nodded after a long time. That's very strong. Gu Shuang sighed and then shivered. Ku's man is so strong. Sister Jingjing, how are you going to educate him? Don't be the one to be taught a lesson. Xing Jingjing answered with a cold face. My supernatural ability is different from Lu Xuanjin's. Yanjika hugged her computer and curled up on the bed, watching the match attentively. When she found that Lu Cheng had completed the initial stage of force concentration, she opened her mouth and was stunned at first. Then, she snorted with both anger and happiness. You didn't tell me. Humph, that idiot Cheng wants to surprise me again. What a surprise! As she continued watching, the worry in her heart faded little by little. Her eyes widened little by little, shining like stars. Sextuple explosion. She whispered to herself, proud and happy. At this moment, her cell phone rang. She picked it up and saw that it was a message from Li Liantong. This made her feel both angry and amused. She replied with the word, "Get lost," and secretly scolded Dirty Tong for being so dirty. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, the first to post was unexpectedly Unparalleled Dragon King. He tagged Eternal Nightfall, Brahmin, and Wonton Seller, who was going to be in the 3rd year of high school. It's still that familiar Lu Cheng. His strength has improved so fast that it's unbelievable. He creates miracles again and again. This reminds me of the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. It also makes me believe that he has a high chance of becoming a mighty one with physical invulnerability. When my idol joins the Longhu Club, it will be perfect. Brahmin still hadn't given up on her dream. Eternal Nightfall laughed with her arms akimbo. How could my eyes be wrong? Also, congratulations on getting a new skill, Woman's Intuition, Unparalleled Dragon King said with a funny face. Since the match was broadcasted by Xing Province Satellite TV, they saw the number of followers start to increase after a long pause. After the referee announced the result, Lu Cheng took a deep look at Lu Xuanjin, who was trembling and retching on the ground. Without saying anything, he turned around and walked out of the arena. Originally, he had agreed not to rely on the Jin Dan this time and to weigh his own strength. However, in the end, he still borrowed it a little. Otherwise, he would only be able to complete the quintuple explosion, which might not be so easy in the end. After understanding why he was fighting and finding the source of his strength, he tempered and improved his martial arts will, which made his spirit improve by leaps and bounds. As for his physical strength, because he had been using the Jin Dan to train himself to the limit, he was much stronger than other martial artists of the same level. Even without the Jin Dan, he could still be considered a freak. With these two things, he could complete the quadruple explosion without the Jin Dan even though he hadn't completely entered the Dan stage. Yes, the quadruple explosion. This was the number he estimated. After that, he would have to rely on the Jin Dan to recover his strength and combine it with his spirit to continue the explosion. However, in the process of actually trying it, Lu Cheng found that the force concentration completed by rotating and balancing had many mysteries. It didn't put a heavy burden on the body, which was why he could complete the quintuple explosion. Many factors led to the scene just now. In the Xing Province TV broadcast room, the host couldn't help but exclaim, "Awesome! I haven't seen anyone who can beat Lu Xuanjin so easily in the past few years. Awesome! We have a successor in the martial arts world of Xing Province." Beside him, Yu Hong shook his head and smiled, "Not easy, not easy. Who dared to say that the quadruple explosion was easy? This old man will give you one." Yes. But no matter what, it's really awesome and miraculous. The host replied excitedly, "Let's connect to the reporter in front and watch her interview Lu Cheng live." Wei Renjie watched in a daze. After a long time, he came back to his senses and found that Lu Cheng was stopped by the reporter. He thought of something and said to Wu Ting with a smile, "Ting Ting, aren't you going to congratulate your coach?" "Yeah." Wu Ting jumped up excitedly and rushed over with Zhang Qiufan and other friends. Wei Renjie tidied his clothes and followed behind them. At this moment, he forgot about Sun Yixing, who was still in a daze beside him. Chapter 255. He's almost at the dance stage. Geezer sure stared at the TV on the sofa, wine in hand and dishes in front of him. As a master, since he had nothing better to do, he would definitely be concerned about his disciple's recent situation. As for Lu Cheng's sudden improvement and rebirth, he, who had been shocked, no, surprised, time and time again, had long gotten used to it and was numb to it. He even had a feeling of, as expected. Did he give up on the integration of cultivation? No, if this brat had really given up, he would have called me and asked me about the normal practice of dance stage. Since he didn't do that, it means he has achieved his initial goal. And at his limit, he can't complete the sextuple explosion without a sudden change. Is this part of the benefits of integrating cultivation? As a mighty one with physical invulnerability, how could Geezer sure not notice when Lu Cheng was pushing himself to the limit? It was just that he wasn't accurate enough. Therefore, unlike what Lu Cheng and Yanjika thought, only the two of them knew that Lu Cheng could get tired. This made Geezer sure very confused about Lu Cheng's current situation. What did this brat do? Feeling confused, Geezer sure looked at the phone beside him. However, since the last time he asked for guidance, the brat hadn't called for a long time. He even seemed to have forgotten to report that he was about to reach the dance stage. This made it very boring for him to be a master, a forgotten lonely old man. Lu Cheng had just taken back his phone from the competition supervisor when he was stopped by a beautiful white-collared reporter. In front of him were long guns and short cannons. "Hello Lu Cheng, I'm Wu Wei, a reporter from Xing Province Satellite TV. Is it convenient for you to accept an interview? It won't take long." The white-collared beauty showed a professional smile and handed over the microphone in her hand. "Sure." Lu Cheng turned slightly so that his face was facing the camera. Wu Wei said with a smile, "You are the first fighter to beat a seeded fighter since the start of the competition. It's not a big deal but not a small one. Before this, you seemed to be unknown. Not only did we not know, but even the organizing committee didn't know. Your strength is enough to be a seeded fighter." She was also present at the youth competition banquet that day. She did a few interviews and deliberately threw out this topic to stir up controversy and hype. "Maybe it's because I've been studying in a foreign university, so I don't have much fame in the province. Also, I've improved a lot recently. You can't see it just by watching the videos of my previous matches." Lu Cheng answered calmly. Wu Wei was slightly disappointed. She smiled and asked, "Did you really only learn martial arts for a year? I'm very curious about this. The viewers in front of the TV should be very curious too. I started practicing martial arts last October." Lu Cheng didn't try to hide anything. This information could be easily found on the internet. Dance stage in 1 year. What a rare genius. Wu Wei was not stingy with her praise. Because there was still a broadcast later, there was very little time left for the interview. She did not expand on this topic and continued to ask, "This is your first time fighting with a martial artist who mainly uses abilities, right? You seem to have won quite easily. What do you think?" It wasn't easy. The fighting style of martial artists who mainly use supernatural abilities is very different from normal martial artists. It made me feel a little uncomfortable. Although I looked fine just now, I was actually walking on a tightrope and was almost at my limit. Lu Cheng said humbly. As for how close he was to his limit, it was up to him to guess. "I see." Wu Wei glanced at the other rings and threw out the last question. "Lu Cheng, what's your goal in this youth tournament? Top 16? Lu Cheng had fought with all his strength, so he felt that if he was too humble, he would appear hypocritical. So he answered confidently and calmly, "Top 4. Top 4 was not the 4th, but the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, and the 1st. Top 4? Wu Wei was pleasantly surprised. She felt that she had finally found the breaking point. "Then I wish you success. Thank you for accepting the interview." Because of the break between matches, some of the big screens were replaying the previous fight, while others were broadcasting the interview to thousands of viewers. Top 4? Zhang Zhutong had already unclenched his fists in his pockets. Looking at the broadcast on the big screen and listening to Lu Cheng's calm answer, he raised his eyebrows. His fighting spirit was ignited in his heart. It was not because of gratitude, hatred, or jealousy. It was the pure desire of a martial artist to defeat a strong opponent. Top 4? Let's see how lucky you are. Han Jifei slid his finger across the scar on his face and whispered to himself, Top 4, what a coincidence. My goal is the same. And I want to fight for the championship. Top 4. Han Ying and Xiong Yu were both muttering to themselves. They did not think that Lu Cheng was arrogant or overconfident. A quasi-Dan stage fighter who could complete sextuple explosion was qualified to say that. Top 4. Qi Yunfei's eyes lit up. She raised her hands and cheered loudly, Brother Lu Cheng is so handsome. The plain, top 4, didn't sound like a statement of a desired goal, but rather an announcement of a predetermined result. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, in the interview covered by countless people, such a confident answer, that kind of attitude, Brother Lu Cheng is so handsome. I have to ask for more autographs for Cheng. Maybe I can make a fortune in the future. Jiang Fei said to himself without ambition. Chao Lele, Qiu Hailin, and the others came back to their senses and burst into laughter. It was the first time that Qi Fang and Lu Jisheng saw their son on TV. Recalling the image of him running around in diapers when he was a child, they felt that things had changed. As soon as Lu Cheng walked out of the arena and entered the grandstand area, Wu Ting, Zhang Qiufan, and the other teenagers appeared in front of him. They were so excited that their faces were flushed, and their eyes were bright. They expressed their thoughts noisily without any organization. Sir Lu, you are so awesome. You were so handsome just now. So awesome. Lu Cheng smiled and shook his head. He reached out his right hand and gave them a celebratory high five, which made them even more excited. At this time, Wei Renjie took 2 steps forward and said with a smile, Lu, we've known each other for half a year, right? I didn't realize that you were such an outstanding martial artist. My eyes must be blurred. I really can't imagine that someone who has only been practicing martial arts for such a short time can be so powerful. Half a year ago, I didn't think I could reach this level, let alone you, Chairman. Lu Cheng responded with a smile. This was also true. During the winter vacation, he thought he could enter the Dan stage in 1 or 2 years. After a few words of greeting, Wei Renjie took the initiative to ask, Lu, are you interested in joining the preliminaries of Xioshan and making a contribution to our hometown? He knew there was not much hope. If Lu Cheng really wanted to participate in the preliminaries, Chu Weikai would have mentioned it. Chairman, you know, I am studying in Songqing and have the university martial arts competition. I don't have the time or energy to do this. I want to, but I can't. Lu Cheng politely declined the invitation. This had always been his idea, and he would not change it. He could not lose the watermelon for the sesame. He had to distinguish the important points. I understand. Wei Renjie sighed and suddenly smiled. If that's the case, then let me ask you one more thing. After the youth tournament is over, we will officially form a team and begin special training. At that time, we will invite many strong people to be our instructors. I wonder if you are interested in this? We can discuss the remuneration. Instructor? Remuneration? Lu Cheng thought about the arrangement in August and answered with a little excitement. I will see if I have time. Okay, call me when you decide. Wei Renjie exchanged numbers with Lu Cheng. After dealing with the students of the VIP class, Lu Cheng waved to his parents in the stands and Qin Rui further away. He pointed to his phone, indicating that he had to call first. He walked along the aisle and out of the stadium. He found a secluded place and dialed a number. Without a doubt, it was Ko Qian's number. Yenjika saw the call and was happy. Her eyes softened and she sat up with her legs crossed. Lu Cheng, who had been so confident in the interview on the satellite channel, leaned against the wall in the corner without a care for his image. He laughed and said, Did you see? Did you see the surprise I gave you? See what? Humph, I didn't see anything. Yenjika understood Lu Cheng's meaning tacitly. She said coquettishly, You are about to master force concentration, so you must have not learned it recently. You have been hiding from me for a long time. You are good at hiding. If you hide something from me in the future, I will never find out. Well, this is not the right direction. Lu Cheng pulled himself together and said with a smile, I want to give you a surprise, right? What's the surprise if I know in advance? Besides, it's because we don't do morning exercises together every day. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to hide it even if I wanted to. When we get married and live together every day, what can I hide from you? Who wants to marry you? Yenjika was so embarrassed that she punched the plush doll. Cheng, you don't know what to say. Live together every day. Lu Cheng, who had successfully changed the topic, said with a smile, the game is over. Coach Yen, aren't you going to praise me? Praise you for what? Yenjika asked with a smile. Praise Lu Cheng for being awesome. Lu Cheng for being awesome. Lu Cheng for being awesome. Lu Cheng joked exaggeratedly, releasing the joy of defeating Lu Xuanjun. Yenjika rolled her eyes and laughed. Cheng, you are getting funnier and more shameless. Just livening up the atmosphere, Lu Cheng replied modestly. Hearing his words, Yenjika suddenly had an idea. She held back her laughter, covered her face with one hand, closed her eyes and shouted in an exaggerated tone, Lu Cheng for being awesome. Lu Cheng for being awesome. Lu Cheng for being awesome. After shouting, she laughed out loud. Oh no, I've been infected by Cheng's exaggeration. I'm so shameless. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. His body and mind became comfortable. When he stopped laughing, he became emotional and asked softly, Cool, when will you come back? In 2 or 3 days. I'm almost at the beginner level of the internal training method. Yenjika also calmed down and said with a throbbing heart, Wait for me. 2 or 3 days. Don't worry, I'll definitely wait for you. Lu Cheng promised. In the afternoon, Lu Cheng drew a top 9 in the 5th match of the 3rd arena. But before it was his turn, enough people had been eliminated in the previous matches, so there was no need for the following matches. He was officially in the top 32 of the challenge tournament. After having lunch with his parents and taking a walk, Lu Cheng returned to the hotel. When he entered the lobby, he found that many people were looking at him, as if they were pointing at him. After the broadcast on the satellite channel, I've become famous among the martial arts fans in the province. He shook his head and laughed. In the blink of an eye, he forgot about it. Entering the dance stage is the most important thing. The next morning, Lu Cheng received a call from Yenjika as soon as he came back from training. Cheng, your opponent is out. The girl's tone was a little strange. My opponent for the top 32 knockout match is out? What time is it? Lu Cheng asked in surprise, Who is it? Yenjika cleared her throat. Sister Jingjing. She has connections in the Martial Artist Association of Xing Province. She knew the result as soon as the draw came out. Sister Jingjing? Lu Cheng frowned slightly. Another martial artist who mainly relied on special abilities. Chapter 256. The sun at the end of July was scorching and fierce. Even at 8 in the morning, it was still daunting. Knowing that his opponent in the knockout round of the top 32 was Xing Jingjing, Lu Cheng recalled what Yenjika had told him. His girlfriend's best friend's supernatural ability was to affect the surrounding air and create visual and auditory errors, creating an effect similar to illusions. It sounds like it can be countered by absolute reaction. Lu Cheng murmured to himself. He smiled cautiously. Coach Yen, do you have any videos of Jingjing's matches? I do, but I don't think it's useful. Jingjing only participated in the university martial arts competition last year, and Huahai has and Chaoyang, a professional 7th pin fighter. She won't be able to face a dance stage opponent. The fights between professional 9th pin fighters won't be of much use to you now. Yenjika answered while thinking. The year before Peng Liyun entered Shanbei University, the champion of the National University Martial Arts Competition was Huahai University. They had a strong foundation and many strong fighters. Even now, and Chaoyang, who was about to enter his senior year, was a genius on par with Peng Liyun and Rin Li. Because he always looked sleepy, his nickname was Sleeping Tiger. It was said that he was trying his best to break through to 6th pin. I still have to take a look and get a direct impression of her superpower. If I were to fail miserably here, how am I supposed to face others? How can I face your best friends? Lu Qing said humorously. That's true. Qing, I won't cheer for you today. Yenjika's tone became light. If you lose to Jingjing, I'll laugh at you for half a year. Speaking of this, she solemnly said, don't be careless. I feel that the absolute reaction may not be reliable. What? Lu Qing was surprised. Think about it. What is the principle of absolute reaction? Yenjika asked. Lu Qing thought about what he had learned and seen. When one's martial arts is practiced to the finest level, the strength of the whole body is almost as one, and when it blends with the spirit, qi, and blood, the body can sense the slight changes in the environment. When the enemy attacks, as long as there is a real intention, no matter the look or the preparation, it will cause disturbances, more or less affecting the surroundings. That's why absolute reaction exists. What is the medium of this disturbance? Yenjika reminded him. There. Lu Qing couldn't help but take a breath. From the looks of it, Xing Jingjing's supernatural ability had the potential to mislead and stimulate to a certain extent. This battle wasn't going to be easy. In an instant, the first thing that came to his mind was the special feature of the Jindan, which helped him to sense Zhang Xuming's approach. It seemed to be a perfect counter to Xing Jingjing's supernatural ability. But he gave up the idea after a second thought, because it went against his original goal, to not rely on the Jindan and to measure his own strength. During the battle with Lu Xuanjin yesterday, although he had borrowed the Jindan's ability to recover fatigue, he had already won. Even if he didn't use it, it would only be a little troublesome. This time, if he mainly relied on his Jindan, then it would be meaningless. I have to seriously think about how to make the call. Lu Qing and Yenjika exchanged a few words and hung up the phone. He took off his clothes and stood under the faucet of the shower, pondering. On one side was her boyfriend, and on the other side was her best friend. Yenjika was in a dilemma. After ending the call, she knelt on the bed, thinking about the fight this morning. Which side should I take? At this moment, there was a knock on the door. She quickly changed her sitting position and said, Who is it? Sister Lingxi? She vaguely recognized the footsteps of her cousin, Ji Lingxi. You have good hearing. Ji Lingxi opened the door and leaned against the door with a smile. We're going out to sea. Do you want to come? She was half a head taller than Yenjika and looked more like Ji Mingyu when she was younger than her cousin. No, it's boring. I don't like parties that are too noisy and messy. Yenjika frowned slightly. To be honest, going out to sea on Grandpa's yacht and looking at the blue sky was indeed relaxing. Occasionally, fishing and chatting were quite interesting. But now she felt that without Cheng's company, she couldn't muster up the energy to do these things. Not to mention that her cousin would invite friends to different kinds of parties at sea. She didn't like such occasions and was even more resistant. Ji Lingxi chuckled. Many men will be very disappointed. They've been yearning for our quiet little beauty. Because of Yenjika's father's genes, Yenjika was undoubtedly the most beautiful in the generation of the Ji family. She was also very gentle and scholarly. Gentle and quiet? How am I gentle and quiet? Yenjika burst into laughter. Well, I have to let Qing know that someone praised me for being gentle and quiet. You're always so quiet at every banquet and gathering. You don't like to talk. Ji Lingxi laughed. All right, it's fine if you don't want to go. Come with me later. Yenjika frowned. This was not a simple and easy task. Watching her cousin leave, she recalled the conversation just now and realized that she had actually nagged Qing twice in just a few words. She already knew the answer to her previous dilemma. She smiled to herself and said, Sister Jingjing, I'm sorry. I value love more than friends. Lu Qing jogged into the stadium and came to the big screen to confirm the matchups. Central Arena, 4th match in the morning. Number 18 Lu Qing, 19 years old, professional 9th pin. Number 79 Xing Jingjing, 20 years old, professional 9th pin. 4th match. Lu Qing was about to leave the big screen when a woman in a business suit suddenly came to him. She smiled and showed 8 teeth. Mr. Lu Qing, right? Yes, what's the matter? Lu Cheng asked in confusion. I'm Fong Siki, a staff member of the Youth Tournament Organizing Committee. The woman in business suit smiled like a spring breeze. I'm responsible for taking you to the exclusive lounge. Exclusive lounge? Lu Cheng was confused, but he was able to confirm Fong Siki's identity from her tag and other items. Fong Siki answered with a smile, You'll understand when you get there. She pointed and led the way. She led Lu Cheng through the stadium to the other end, where they entered a lounge with many rooms. Mr. Lu Cheng, there's a retreat room, a viewing room, a puppet room, a massage room, a hydrotherapy room, and a shower room. It can help you relax and recover before and after a match. You can choose an unmarked room. Fong Siki explained dutifully. Lu Cheng seemed to understand something. He asked, Is this the exclusive lounge for the seated players? Yes, you're qualified to use this place. Fong Siki answered humbly. If Lu Cheng was already 24 or 25 years old, the leaders of the organizing committee wouldn't make such an arrangement even if his current performance was very outstanding. They were all doing business and didn't need to worry about offending anyone. However, a 19-year-old in the dance stage who had been practicing martial arts for less than a year. Everyone was looking forward to seeing how far he could go in the future. It was normal to show some favor when there was a chance. I see. Lu Cheng nodded and didn't say anything more. After sharing this with Yenjika, he suddenly felt a bit more pressure. If he was eliminated by Xing Jingjing right after he got the right to use the exclusive lounge, it would be a big loss of face. From the top 32, there was only the central ring left. There were 16 matches, 8 in the morning and 8 in the afternoon, with some small programs in between. In other words, all the matches would be broadcasted. Looking at the staff of the TV station busily preparing, Wei Renjie smiled and said to Chu Weikai and Sun Yixing, If Lu Cheng wins 2 or 3 more matches, the brand of Xioshan will be famous. It's a pity that he won't have time to participate in the preliminaries. Sun Yixing had already understood Lu Cheng's situation and thoughts from Chu Weikai, so he wasn't jealous anymore. He answered sincerely, If he really participates in the preliminaries with the situation of our province, he might be able to lead the team into the second stage of the preliminaries. He really couldn't think of fighting against such a genius who didn't have any interest with him. Of course, there was hurt when there was a comparison, especially when Wei Renjie kept mentioning Lu Cheng. He also felt a lot of bitterness and suffering in his heart. Lu Cheng's future is not in Xioshan. Chu Weikai said with a sigh. After yesterday, the name of Gushin Martial Arts School spread throughout the province along with Lu Cheng's popularity. The advertising value was more than 1 million. This was the advantage of making friends in advance. Wei Renjie was quite emotional. Yeah, the pond is too small to raise a real dragon. After the matches, Lu Cheng got the hint from the staff to leave the lounge. Under the gaze of many people, he went up to the ring. Xing Jingjing was already there, wearing a black martial arts suit that set off her snow-white skin, which made her look cold and beautiful. Seeing her, Lu Cheng suddenly remembered what his girlfriend had said before. Sister Jingjing's supernatural ability came from fear, from the mentality of wanting to avoid danger. Chapter 257. Standing in front of Xing Jingjing, Lu Cheng greeted her politely, Senior sister. Although he called her Sister Jingjing like his girlfriend did in private, he felt it was more appropriate to call her senior sister in a formal setting due to their actual relationship. Their relationship was too shallow to call each other too familiar. Xing Jingjing nodded slightly and uttered a single syllable. After she finished speaking, she continued to maintain her usual coldness and silence, keeping everyone 1,000 miles away from her and refusing to make any conversation. Looks like the conversation time is also like this, Lu Cheng thought. He closed his eyes and reorganized his thoughts. With Sister Jingjing's mental problems, if he provoked her with words during the conversation time, he would most likely get a good result. However, this would make him look like a man. Unless it was a battle of life and death, he couldn't confidently poke a woman's most painful scar, even if he wasn't facing an acquaintance. Forget it. I'll just fight with my martial arts strength. The conversation time starts now. The referee pulled open the curtains of the match. Just as Lu Cheng expected, Xing Jingjing didn't say a word, as if she had turned into an ice sculpture. Lu Cheng was adjusting his physical and mental state, as well as coming up with a plan for the fight and a strategy for taking risks at critical moments. At this moment, he was very regretful that he wasn't able to enter the dance stage ahead of time. Although he could use force concentration, absolute reaction, and combine the forces of his entire body as one, he possessed almost all the characteristics of this level. He was not much different from an 8th pin dance stage fighter, and might even be a little more powerful. However, from an essential point of view, a little difference was still a little difference. Not even the slightest difference would do. Human body Big Dan didn't only mean that one's strength was smooth and transparent, but it also meant that one's spirit, chi, blood, and force were initially integrated and connected. Therefore, even if Lu Cheng's force concentration couldn't be integrated into one point after incorporating the concept of rotation and balance, he still had a standard to judge whether he had entered the Dan stage. That was, when the spirit, chi, blood, and force were condensed to a certain extent, they would begin to connect and integrate. At this point, when the spirit, and force were integrated, one could be called a real Dan stage fighter. Going further up, when they were further integrated, the intuition, sixth sense, and danger premonition symbolized by spirit would blend with the senses formed by skin, muscles, and so on, allowing absolute reaction to reach a higher level, resulting in a qualitative change. This was the ability that only professional 7th pin or even 6th pin martial artists possessed. When one's consciousness was able to look inwards and project one's mind outwards, this kind of sensing ability would exceed one's own ability and become an area of effect. The ice mirror was at the same level as this. Up till this point, Lu Cheng finally understood why he couldn't get started with the ice mirror. If he wanted to master the ice mirror before his essence, chi, spirit, will, and force were integrated into one and completed the next step of fusion, it wasn't enough for him to enter meditation and have inward vision. He had to break through this realm to make up for his shortcomings in other aspects. No wonder Master said that it would be pretty good to be able to cultivate in 2 or 3 years. He's taking into account the increase in my cultivation realm. He was simply tricking his disciple. 3 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. The referee raised his right hand and was about to swing it down. Yan Shaoling and the others who were watching the match felt that this match would not be difficult because they lacked a deep understanding of Xing Jingjing's superpower. They were leisurely eating snacks, enjoying the feeling of victory. Begin! The voice reverberated, suppressing the noise of the stadium and resounding in every corner. Lu Cheng didn't jump out to close the distance and make the first move like he did in previous matches. Instead, he took a stance, lowered his waist, and stepped forward. He raised his right hand in front of his face to protect his eyes, temples, and other vulnerable spots. His left hand lowered to cover his lower abdomen and crotch. He was in a passive defensive posture. The spectators, who were somewhat knowledgeable about martial arts, were dumbfounded. They didn't understand why the genius fighter who had sent the 9th seed flying 6 times in a row yesterday was so cautious. His opponent wasn't a seeded fighter, and she didn't have any outstanding battle records or dazzling performances. At this moment, Zhang Zhutong, who was convinced of Lu Cheng's strength and knew that he wouldn't shoot without thinking, frowned slightly. He suddenly realized that the cold beauty in front of him was not easy to deal with. Well, she seemed to be from Xioshan, so Lu Cheng must know her well. Her superpower of illusion was not simple. If he attacked rashly and launched a sudden attack, he was afraid that he would only hit the air and expose more flaws in himself. Zhang Zhutong turned his head to look at Han Jifei, Qiu Lin, and the others. Unsurprisingly, he found that they also looked dignified. In the arena, Xing Jingjing tiptoed. Her tall and slender figure moved with curved footwork and quickly approached Lu Cheng. She swung her right arm like a whip and whipped toward her opponent's neck. A tingling sensation appeared on Lu Cheng's neck before she really attacked, so he didn't dare to be careless. He would rather believe it than not, so he bounced his spine and forcibly pulled his body back to the left, avoiding the attack. At this moment, the hair on Lu Cheng's right shoulder stood on end. He felt some kind of danger approaching. He believed that it wasn't an illusion because there was a physical collision. Bam! A clenched fist hit his shoulder. The moment they made contact, Xing Jingjing's figure on the other side disappeared as if the holographic projection had ended. Her superpower could indeed interfere with this level of absolute reaction. Seeing this, Zhang Zhutong wasn't surprised. He just narrowed his eyes imperceptibly. At the critical moment, when Xing Jingjing's whip hit his shoulder, Lu Cheng's qi, blood, force, and spirit suddenly shrank, pulling all his senses inward into a small ball. Force concentration. He seemed to have been waiting for this moment. Lu Cheng's body suddenly became empty. Even the smell of life seemed to have disappeared. When Xing Jingjing hit him, she felt that there was nothing under her fist and there was no place to exert force. Just as she was about to stretch her fascia, flick her joints, and launch a second attack with the inch punch to break through this strange force dissipation effect, the small ball in Lu Cheng's dantian suddenly exploded, spewing out a torrential and terrifying force. Crack! Lu Cheng sank his feet, turned his back, and opened his bones and joints. Before Xing Jingjing could use the inch force, he threw her like an elephant. Xing Jingjing couldn't resist the Dan force and was immediately thrown out. She lost her center of gravity, like a kite with a broken string. Opportunity knocks but once. Lu Qing used force concentration again, showing an amazing burst of power. He pounced and caught up with his opponent who hadn't landed yet. His abdominal muscles bulged. He pressed down with his left hand and punched with his right fist. Rocket cannon. Bam! Lu Qing hit Xing Jingjing, but it exploded in the air. He couldn't hit his target. He could only watch as his opponent disappeared in front of him. Illusion. Lu Qing didn't dare to stay. He took advantage of the situation and strode forward. Xing Jingjing appeared not far from him. She staggered and steadied her center of gravity. After a few steps, Lu Qing came to the edge of the arena. He used the momentum to turn around and rearrange his stance. This time, he was going to fight with his back against the wall to reduce the places he needed to defend. I don't believe you can fly in the air and attack me from behind. Xing Jingjing glanced at him indifferently. Without hesitation, she stepped forward again. The two collisions just now made the audience look at each other. Many people couldn't help but rub their eyes, wondering if there was something wrong with their eyesight. It wasn't until now that they realized that the tall and silent girl wasn't here to be a bystander. On the contrary, she was very strong. She could actually threaten the genius martial artist who had become an unknown winner yesterday. Could it be another unknown winner? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Yan Shaoling looked at the match screen with her eyes wide open. Her hands unconsciously sent a post. As for snacks, she had already forgotten about them. Yenjika pursed her lips tightly. She was worried but not panicked. She knew and believed that Qing still had some tricks up his sleeve. He wouldn't be so helpless. Before the match, she and Lu Qing had carefully discussed the strategy and countermeasures. Should I take the risk and use that move? Standing beside the arena, Lu Qing still blocked with his right hand and left hand to protect his vital parts. He didn't take the initiative to attack. His eyes were dark and deep. He locked onto Xing Jingjing's rapidly approaching figure, as if he was trying to distinguish whether she was real or not. Bam! Xing Jingjing suddenly put her feet inward, lowered her waist and swung her shoulders, and threw a normal but fierce punch. Lu Qing swayed his center of gravity and moved his waist and back to the left. He dodged to the left like a crab, keeping the edge of the arena behind him. Bam! A fist appeared out of nowhere and appeared on his left rib. It exploded the air and stirred up the wind. It directly hit the target. At this moment, Lu Cheng's dantian dropped. His breath, spirit, and force once again converged and condensed into a human body Big Dan. Xing Jingjing didn't feel surprised at all. It didn't feel like she had hit his flesh or bones. Instead, it felt like she had hit something empty. She had been prepared. She suddenly exerted force on her knuckles, and in a flash, her 5 fingers turned into 5 bullets. They were going to drill into his flesh and break his ribs. This is the time. Lu Cheng's pupils shrank. He suddenly exploded the human body Big Dan and let the force surge out. At the same time, he barely kept his spirit and visualized the scene of turbid waves rolling in his mind. During force concentration, it was impossible to visualize because of the inward contraction of the spirit. If one wanted to use the explosive force of the Dan stage to activate the core force such as frost force and meteor force, one had to seize the short time after the eruption of force and adjust the corresponding muscles, fascia, and internal organs. It was not easy. Therefore, this was something that couldn't be done by professional 8th pin, 7th pin, or 6th pin Dan stage. Only when one reached the inhuman level could he use the core force of his entire body when he burst out with all his strength. It was the same for Lu Cheng. When he imitated the explosive force of the Dan stage, he only had time to activate the Thunder Roar Zen. But this time, he didn't want to use the Frost Force. He just wanted to use it to strengthen his supernatural ability of frost. The cold wind hit and the temperature dropped sharply. The river froze and everything froze. The cold current in Lu Cheng's body turned into a surging cold wave. The muscles on his left rib suddenly swelled, revealing the dark blue tendons and blood vessels. It seemed to have become a shrinking fist and collided with Xing Jingjing's 5 fingers. The force of his whole body was as one, which meant that he could use most of his body to attack. It was just that the strength of his body couldn't reach the level of his hands and feet. Because of this, Lu Cheng's goal was to win with injuries. Through this kind of physical contact, he could exchange a small injury for an opportunity to inject the cold wave into Xing Jingjing's body. As long as she was frozen out for a moment, with her own strength, there was nothing to be afraid of. Bang! Xing Jingjing's 5 fingers clawed into Lu Cheng's flesh, and the surging cold wave gushed out. Chapter 258. In an instant, a wave of frost poured in. Xing Jingjing felt as if she was in a world of ice and snow. She felt the chill seeping into her bones, causing her to shiver uncontrollably and forget the effect of maintaining her supernatural ability. Her figure quickly faded in front of Lu Cheng's eyes and reappeared at a slightly different angle. That was to say, although it was the same forward punch that hit Lu Cheng's left rib, one of them was on the right while the other was on the center. If Lu Cheng had counterattacked according to his original judgment, he would have missed by 1,000 miles. Witnessing this scene, Lu Cheng closed his eyes and stopped looking at the specific situation. Based on the position he had just memorized and the possibility of Xing Jingjing's dodging, he took a step diagonally and lowered his waist. His abdominal muscles and lateral fascia swelled up, brushing against the air and creating an abnormal sound. Lu Cheng felt like a snowy mountain was collapsing in his mind. He swung his right arm and his fist penetrated the airflow at high speed, connecting with the previous sound. It was as if a fierce tiger was released and roaring in the forest. The nearby audience felt numb and trembled slightly. Bang! His fist hit the body of flesh and blood, but it was firmly blocked. Lu Cheng calmed down and didn't do much, because this wasn't the power that Xing Jingjing could have. In the ring, there was only one person who could do this. He opened his eyes and saw that the referee blocked his punch. Xing Jingjing's face was pale because of the cold, and the hair on her temples was slightly messed up by the storm caused by his punch. If there was no external force, she would have been hit in the temple. The referee glanced at Lu Cheng's left rib and withdrew his hand. He raised it and announced loudly, "Lu Cheng wins." Following the referee's gaze, Lu Cheng found that red blood was flowing out of his left rib and soaking his torn martial arts suit red. It was a bloody scene. Although the strength of his whole body was as one and he could exert force in most parts, because of the characteristics of his body and the way he trained day after day, the strength of his lower rib couldn't be compared with the strength of his hands and feet. After counteracting almost all of Xing Jingjing's strength, his flesh was still penetrated by her 5 fingers. However, with the counteraction, this was only a very light wound. It looked like it was bleeding, but it didn't hurt much. Lu Cheng controlled the muscles and fascia around the wound carefully. In a short time, the bleeding was stopped, leaving only 5 tightly closed marks. This was one of the abilities of Dan's stage. "You scared me to death." Eternal nightfall, Yan Shaoling let out a long sigh and quickly posted a post. In the fight just now, she suspected that if Lu Cheng didn't win, she would be the first one to suffocate herself to death. It's not easy. That girl's supernatural ability seems to be very strong. If she didn't meet Lu Cheng, she would definitely be a dark horse that can overturn most of the seeds, praised unparalleled Dragon King. Brahmin sent the jumping emoji. My idol is the best at curing all disobedience. At this moment, Okamoto's fan appeared. Embark. It's the spring festival. No, it's a great opportunity for Lu Cheng to win. I'm going to drive. I remember you. You're a fake driver. Yen Shaoling pointed out indignantly. Brahmin also shouted, I remember you too. Don't leave after school. Unparalleled Dragon King did not say anything. He only posted a picture to express his disdain for the old driver. On the picture was a cold expression and 8 big words. Her nature is the cause of calamity. Cut it off and cure it forever. Hearing the referee's announcement, Chow Lele and the others, who had unconsciously clenched their fists, relaxed. They originally thought that the battle would be very easy, but it had developed to such a stage. Although it was short, it was thrilling enough. Just now, the camera from Lu Cheng's angle had shown the live broadcast on the big screen, showing the effect of Xing Jingjing's supernatural ability. This was completely different from what they saw when they looked at the arena from the stands. It also made them understand why Lu Cheng always made mistakes in judgment and was passively beaten. This supernatural ability is really scary. This is only the initial stage. If she continues to evolve, will she be on the same level as the physical invulnerability experts of the Fantasy Sect, Dark Sect and Death Sect? At this moment, the camera changed to focus on Lu Cheng's wound, letting the audience see the bloodstain. Yen Zhika covered her mouth and picked up her phone worriedly. Although she knew that Sister Jingjing would not hold back in the arena, which was a show of respect for Lu Cheng and martial arts, she still couldn't help but complain. How could she hurt Cheng? What's the test? In a situation where she didn't notice, the difference between family and distance was self-evident. Qi Fang was even more shocked. When she saw Lu Cheng walk down the arena and retrieve his phone from the competition supervisor, she immediately called him. Lu Cheng wanted to send a message to Yen Zhika, telling her not to worry. However, before he could unlock the screen, he received a call from his mother. How's your injury? Qi Fang went straight to the point, attracting the attention of Lu Jisheng and Qi Yunfei. Lu Cheng laughed and said, It's okay. It's just a small injury. It won't affect the rest of the competition. Qi Fang's heart returned to its original place. Then she frowned and said, Are all martial arts competitions this dangerous? It looks like it's easy to get injured. Mom, this is normal. It's just like when you're cooking. If you occasionally get cut or hit, you won't stop cooking, right? Lu Cheng gave an example to dispel his mother's concerns. Of course, this was a bit of a small matter. However, since he had chosen this path, there was no need to scare his family. Qi Fang nodded with some doubts. Lu Cheng held the phone and looked around. When Wu Wei was about to come forward to interview him, he deliberately said loudly, Mom, let's talk later. I'm going to the infirmary to clean my wound and put a band-aid on it. He didn't dare to say that the infirmary was called the emergency room. He didn't want to scare his mother. He took large strides and rushed into the emergency room before Wu Wei could get close to him. The doctor on duty was also watching the live broadcast. He was already prepared. When he saw Lu Cheng, he laughed and said, Take off your clothes. Lu Cheng obediently took off his clothes. His upper body was bare, exposing the wound that had already stopped bleeding. At this time, he saw 2 young nurses getting close to each other while making medicine. He heard them whispering. His body is really good. Yeah, I really want to touch it, you lustful woman. I'm just saying. I have professional ethics. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. He didn't want to listen anymore. He simply took out his phone and chatted with Yen Zhika. When the doctor cleaned the blood around the wound, he took a selfie and sent it to his girlfriend. See, it's nothing. It doesn't affect my strength. Besides, he had mastered the fine details of the dance stage. His self-healing ability was not at the same level as his body-refining ability. Yen Zhika glanced at it first to make sure that Lu Cheng wasn't comforting her. Then she blushed and replied shyly, Pervert. How dare he send me a nude picture? Although it's only his upper body. But Cheng's body is not bad. She did share a bed with Lu Cheng and touched his abs. However, she was too shy to look at them. After Gu Shuang met up with Xing Jingjing, she said nervously, "Sister Jingjing, you hurt Ku's man. It's just a test. You can stop at the critical moment. This is respect." Xing Jingjing said concisely. "But that's it. I really don't understand you martial arts fanatics." Gu Shuang tucked her hair behind her ear and sighed helplessly. "Didn't we talk about it in the arena? After the competition, we should visit him. At least we'll be acquaintances in the future. I don't know martial arts, but I know manners." Xing Jingjing didn't refuse. Leading her into the emergency room, Gu Shuang saw Lu Cheng, who had put on his martial arts suit again. She found that he looked good and moved freely. His injury seemed to be very light. She pulled Xing Jingjing and asked her to speak first. "Are you okay?" Xing Jingjing took a step closer to her best friend and asked in a low voice, her voice tense. "It's nothing. It's just a small injury. I can fight another round." Lu Cheng replied humorously. "Sister Jingjing said that your martial arts are really good and you've passed her test." Gu Shuang added with a smile. Xing Jingjing immediately turned to look at her and silently asked, "When did I say such a thing?" Gu Shuang secretly stuck out her tongue and winked at her best friend. "You've lost. Doesn't that mean you've passed the test? I'm just helping you to translate your inner words." Thinking of this, she chuckled and said, "I haven't introduced myself yet. I'm Gu Shuang, Ku's childhood sweetheart. Ku often talks about you." Lu Cheng replied politely. "She must have said something bad about me." Gu Shuang snorted with a smile. "That's true." Lu Cheng complained in his heart and said with a smile, No. She always praises you." It was said that this little sister had the ability to attract scumbags. Although she had changed her occupation to Flower Princess, most of the men she met were still scumbags. Ku couldn't help but complain. "Liar," Gu Shuang said proudly. "The main thing is that I'm not worthy of her praise. She's so self-deprecating." Lu Cheng didn't know how to respond and could only laugh dryly. Gu Shuang glanced at the obviously uncomfortable Xing Jingjing and waved her hand. "Since you're fine, we'll leave first. Ku, we'll meet again in Gaofun. Hee, this is my home ground." She was studying in a second-rate university in Gaofun, and her father's company had shifted its focus to the provincial capital. Chapter 259. After leaving the emergency room, Lu Cheng went straight out of the stadium and found a quiet place. He called Yanjika and told her that Gu Shuang and Xing Jingjing had come to visit him. He didn't want her to feel bad about her best friend because of his injury. After a sweet talk, the girl continued to practice the internal training method of meteor force. Lu Cheng walked back slowly with one hand in his pocket. When he passed by a few shops, he thought of something and sent a message to Jiang Fei. "Fatty Jiang, I'm outside. Do you want to eat something? There are sausages and corn." These days he was busy practicing, preparing, watching, and participating in the competition. Except for eating, he didn't have time to accompany his parents and 3 cousins. It was all thanks to Jiang Fei's help. He had to reward them. Of course, how can there be no food in the middle of a martial arts competition? Jiang Fei replied quickly and turned to Qiu Hailin and Chao Lele. "What do you want to eat?" Cheng said it's his treat. For most people, it was like, how could there be no popcorn in the middle of a movie? Me. I want a sausage and corn. Tell brother Lu Cheng that the sausage needs to be spicy." The first to answer was Chi Yunfei, who was listening attentively. As she spoke, she felt that her saliva was about to flow out. "Also, I want a cup of cola with ice or frozen." Well, I must have been too nervous just now. With her taking the lead, the others also let go of their reservations. Chao Lele, Qiu Hailin, and the other girls all ordered grilled sausages and corn. Fatty Jiang, Cheng Qili, and Tao Xiaofei only wanted grilled sausages. Lu Cheng's parents also happily ordered 2 corn sticks. Seeing the list, Lu Cheng smiled and did as he was told. He also bought several bottles of drinks and carried them back to the stadium. He walked along the aisle and approached the group of relatives and friends. "Here, your sausages and corn." He passed them from left to right one by one with a warm smile. This gave Chow Lele and the others a strange and subtle feeling. It seemed that they didn't know Lu Cheng in front of them again. He was still fighting in the arena just now, but now he seemed to have done nothing. He was enjoying the martial arts competition with everyone like an ordinary person. Was he still the genius martial artist who had been so powerful these 2 days? Or was he still the hope of the martial arts world in Xing province on TV? His attitude to his family and friends was the same as before. In the evening, in the conference room of the Xing province TV station, a man who looked like a leader took out a cigarette. He didn't light it but just played with it in his hand. He said with a provincial accent, "The top 16 of the youth tournament have been decided. It's time for us to decide the finalists for the to record. My opinion is that there should be 18 of them." "No, director. What's the nickname this time?" A woman wearing half-rimmed glasses asked. "I don't have a clue for the time being. This meeting is for everyone to brainstorm. Come, give me your opinions." The leader smiled as he held his cigarette. A young man with messy hair thought for a while and said, "For sovereigns, 6 kings, and 8 immortals look like this? For sovereigns, 6 kings, and 8 immortals? What would the physical invulnerability mighty one, who had obtained the title of king, think? A provincial youth tournament with such a domineering and cool nickname, are they trying to defy the heavens?" A man who was addicted to web novels retorted. "That's true." The woman with half-rimmed glasses thought for a while and suggested, "For celestial spirits, 6 earthly fiends, and 8 immortals? 4 celestial spirits and 6 earthly fiends. That's not very symmetrical. But 8 immortals is fine. Let's decide on them first. As for the rest, you can think about it in the next few days. We have to decide on them in the next meeting." The leader changed the topic and said, "Let's not talk about the top 16. Who do you think will be the remaining 2? I suggest Xing Jingjing. Her supernatural ability of hallucination is very strong. If she hadn't met Lu Cheng, the rest of the seeds would have been no match for her," the woman with half-rimmed glasses answered without hesitation. "I also agree with Xing Jingjing. I have no objection." Everyone else expressed their agreement. "Then let's choose Xing Jingjing, one of the 8 immortals." The leader said with great interest, "She can create hallucinations, just like magic. Since she's one of the 8 immortals, I think there's a suitable nickname for her." "What is it?" the young man with messy hair asked curiously. "Xiao Mo Xian. What do you think?" The leader smiled proudly. The woman with half-rimmed glasses was stunned. She answered with a dull expression, "If you think it's good, then it's really good. It's settled then. Let's move on to the next one." The leader patted the table heroically and was delighted with his talent for coming up with nicknames. "I'll consider the top 16 one by one." In the afternoon, Lu Cheng still came to the martial arts arena to watch every match. It was as if he had returned to the days when he participated in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. He didn't have the slightest contempt or neglect because he was about to enter the Dan stage. Those who were able to enter the top 32 of the province's martial artists under the age of 26 were definitely not ordinary people. Watching their battles up close would more or less allow him to gain something. Furthermore, the victors had a certain probability of becoming his opponent tomorrow night. The top 16 began. In order to attract the most attention, the competition was changed to the evening prime time. In this way, people who had to work during the day could bring their families to the arena to relax or curl up on the sofa or bed and watch quietly. The next morning, without the pressure of the competition during the day, Lu Cheng became more relaxed. He honed his still stance, moving stance, and fighting routine one by one. He also spent most of his time grinding his danqi state. When it was almost over, he set up his stance and closed his eyes. He recalled the subtle changes in his body during the sextuple explosion and the realization of holding his spirit and visualizing after the explosion of the Dan stage. Once again he tried to withdraw. His will sank and stirred the wind and clouds. His qi, blood, spirit, and strength suddenly withdrew and wrapped around each other. They were getting closer and closer, showing signs of blending with each other. This made Lu Cheng more sensitive to his surroundings. Even malicious mosquitoes seemed to appear in his mind. The subtle feeling disappeared as soon as he touched it. The balance was disrupted. His qi and blood rushed out and his strength erupted. Lu Qing had to open his eyes to relieve the burden on his body. The explosion of the Dan stage didn't only depend on energy and physical strength, but also the body's ability to bear the burden. But for Lu Qing, there was no need to worry. On the one hand, he had the improvement brought by the extreme training, and on the other hand, he had the Jin Dan to relieve fatigue and reduce pressure. He tried again and again. He was getting closer and closer to the Dan stage. The actual combat training is quite useful. Maybe I can become a real mighty one of the Dan stage before the end of this youth tournament. Lu Qing put away his stance and thought tiredly but joyfully. At 7:30 p.m. the Gaofan Martial Arts Stadium was brightly lit. The central arena was temporarily set up as a stage for drawing lots. In front of it were chairs with names written on the back. They were the seats for the guests and the top 16 fighters. Apart from the area that was specially made to separate the crowd, the surrounding stands were packed with people. Some were eating popcorn, some were taking photos with their phones, some were martial arts enthusiasts, and some were here to join in the fun and celebrate a family holiday. Lu Qing was sitting in the third seat from the left in the second row of the guest seats. He was sending words and pictures to Yenjika and patiently waiting for the drawing of lots to begin. In case he didn't have time to watch his opponent's fight videos because he was the first to enter the arena, he spent the whole day with his girlfriend studying the other fighters' fight videos except for training, resting, and eating. Yes, there were 15 fighters left except for him. Hey, why aren't we drawing lots yet? Lu Qing complained. Yenjika replied with a snickering emoji, Are you nervous? That's not it. It's just that I'm always worried about something. Lu Qing replied with a smile. He was indeed nervous. If he couldn't hold on until Ku came back and didn't fulfill his promise of being in the top 4, he would lose face. But for someone who had been in the challenge tournament for a long time, this kind of nervousness was normal. There was no need to worry about it. At this moment, Yenjika was sitting in the departure hall with headphones on and watching the live broadcast on her tablet. She was chatting with her boyfriend and full of expectation. She didn't mention to Lu Qing that she had completely mastered the internal training method and had gotten the permission of her grandparents to graduate. She also didn't mention that she had booked a ticket for the 10:05 p.m. flight tonight. After the top 16 matches, she could board the plane and fly back, and Gu Shuang would pick her up. Hee, I also want to give you a surprise. Xiushan. Lu Yanwei was sitting on the sofa listlessly, watching his mother changing the channel and listening to his grandparents and father chatting. After careful consideration, he found that his original idea was not very practical. He had to give up for the time being and find a better way. Glancing at the TV, he suddenly froze and blurted out, Mom, which channel were you watching just now? Am I seeing things? I think I saw someone. Wang Lily looked at her son reproachfully. What are you talking about? Mom, turn it back. Lu Yanwei sat up straight and frowned. Wang Lily didn't understand and turned the channel back. She nagged, Just tell me what you want to watch. Stuff. Lu Yanwei's eyes lit up and he shouted. Wang Lily saw that the channel had stopped at Xing Province Satellite TV. She looked carefully and suddenly said in surprise, Hey, isn't this Cheng? Number 1 seed Zhang Zhutong versus? The guest drew a small ball. Number 4 seed Zhuozhen. A match between the strong. Lu Qing sighed. Then he heard his name. Number 18 Lu Qing. The big screen began to roll with his match, and the guest reached his hand into the box. Number 5 seed Qiu Lin. Number 5 seed? Qiu Lin? Lu Qing narrowed his eyes and felt a little disappointed, but he wasn't afraid. Instead, he faintly felt a strong desire to fight. Qiu Lin was a real professional 8th pin expert who had participated in the ranking event of professional 7th pin. Although she failed in the end, it was enough to show her confidence. In addition, her ancestor was a disciple of Daxing Temple and she had the supernatural ability to metallize part of her body. Chapter 260. The 5th seed? Is she more powerful than the 9th seed? Lu Cheng's mother, Qi Fang, asked nervously when she saw the result of the draw. She vaguely remembered that Jiang Fei had said so, but she was not sure. Yes, Jiang Fei answered softly, feeling a little nervous. Although he and Chao Lele had never expected Lu Cheng to be the champion or runner-up, they sincerely hoped that he could achieve his goal since his old classmate had said that his goal was to be in the top 4. Who would have thought that he would encounter a strong opponent who was ranked 5th at the beginning of the round of 16? It really made people worried about the result. His luck wasn't bad at all. I thought that the top 8 would be the beginning of the test. Qiu Hailin sighed. Qi Yunfei and the other girls unconsciously clenched their fists. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling tagged Unparalleled Dragon King, and Okamoto's fan immediately. Quick, tell me what's so good about Qiu-Lin? I've read her information and I'm confused. She was always calm and never pretended to be strong. Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a funny emoji. She's good. I think she can compete with Lu Cheng. Their characteristics overlap. Can you say it all in one breath? Yan Shaoling said with a furious emoji. I'm worried that your IQ is low. If I say too much, you won't understand. Unparalleled Dragon King was used to criticizing the moderator. He thought that this was the best thing about the little girl. She would not get angry no matter how they criticized her. Instead, she would cooperate with them to make the forum full of a cheerful atmosphere. However, sometimes she would become inexplicably irritable and delete friends. She was moody. That's true. Take your time. Yan Shaoling was not angry. She replied with a humph. Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a red face emoji. Lu Cheng can complete 6 consecutive bursts. She can do the same. Why? Her supernatural ability is not physical strength. Brahmin also appeared. She was very puzzled. Unparalleled Dragon King quickly replied, it's a long story. Let me drink some hot tea and tell you all about it. Qiu-Lin was born in a martial arts family and had the supernatural ability to metalize part of her body. However, she didn't walk the path of a supernatural ability fighter. Instead, she devoted herself to practicing martial arts. At the age of 18, she obtained the certificate of professional 9th pin with the Vajra fist and lotus steps that were passed down in her family. She became a rising star in the martial arts world of Xing province. But she wasn't satisfied with that. She felt that the martial arts passed down in her family weren't perfect enough. So she took her ancestors' relics and went to Daxing Temple. As you all know, Daxing Temple is a temple of monks. How could they accept a female disciple? She went to the mountainside pavilion every day to ask for help, rain or shine. For a whole year, Abbot Fuyuan of Daxing Temple showed her mercy and allowed her to enter the temple for 7 days to study the illustrations of the 3 physical invulnerability kung fu, the lotus seal of Vajra realm, the 6 syllables Sanskrit mantra of womb realm. And then? Yan Shaoling urged as if she was listening to a story. This little sister's experience was quite interesting. And then? Qiu-Lin learned something from the Vajra fist and improved her family's lotus steps. She also mastered the hum sound of the 6 syllable Sanskrit mantra. Once she recited it, she could squeeze out her body's potential, relieve fatigue, and temporarily stimulate her qi and blood to improve her strength. She used this to complete 5 consecutive bursts in the first half of the year. Sounds awesome. Brahmin praised sincerely. But she could only make 5 consecutive bursts. She couldn't compare with my idol's 6 consecutive bursts. And my idol hadn't reached his limit yet. Good math. Okamoto's fan interrupted. Unparalleled Dragon King replied, knock on the blackboard. Focus on the key points. The hum sound, which squeezes out one's potential, can only be used once a day. Otherwise, you won't be able to fight in the following matches. Even if you only use it once, it will leave a residual fatigue and affect the following matches. Wait, how do you pronounce the hum sound? It sounds like a cow's cry. Don't you think it's embarrassing to make a cow's cry during a fight? Yan Shaoling asked after a moment of silence. Hung for sounds. You're welcome. Okamoto's fan roared to the sky. Cheng? Hearing Wang Lili's raised voice, Lu Debang and Lu Jiqiang looked at the TV at the same time. They didn't understand what this had to do with Lu Cheng. At this time, the broadcast returned to the performance in the arena. They didn't notice anything. Mom, you saw it too? Lu Yanwei was happy to find an ally. He didn't see it wrong. Yes, I saw it. Why is Cheng on TV? And why is he sitting in the first few rows? Wang Lili knew that the first few rows in this kind of occasion were either rich or powerful. Since when was Lu Cheng either rich or powerful? What are you talking about? Lu Debang asked with dignity as the head of the family. How could Cheng be on TV? Lu Yanwei took a breath and said, Grandpa, wait. You'll definitely see it later. This world seemed to have undergone some extraordinary changes without him noticing. So what if you see it? What's so great about being on TV? Lu Jiqiang replied inexplicably. One of the manifestations of his bad mouth was that he seldom said good things about others. For example, when someone invited him to dinner, even if there were a few dishes that didn't suit his taste or were not good enough, the normal guests would not talk about it so as not to ruin the atmosphere. Lu Jiqiang was different. He would say it out loud and criticize it. He would also nitpick on the gifts given by others, saying that this was not good or that. After confirming his opponent, Lu Cheng didn't pay attention to the rest of the draw and performance. He lowered his head and discussed the details of Qiu Lin with Yenjika. Her previous opponents weren't strong. It seems that she hasn't done her best. In the end, Yenjika deliberately reminded him, I heard from Gu Shuang that last month, Qiu Lin said in a private party that her goal was to reach the top 3 in this youth tournament. She must have some confidence to say so. Didn't I also say that my goal was to reach the top 4? Lu Cheng complained and pretended to be pitiful. He took the opportunity to ask for benefits. This opponent is very strong. Coach Yen, I need more encouragement. For example, he could shout out the complete word, darling. Wait and see. Yenjika rolled her eyes and scolded Cheng in her mind. He was getting more and more insatiable. Could actually agreed so easily? I'm a little nervous. Lu Cheng looked at the words in surprise and felt a little nervous. Facing such a strong opponent, Ku wouldn't play a prank, would she? He didn't dare to ask for more details, fearing that Yenjika would go back on her words. He could only suppress his doubts and turn his attention back to his opponent. In the first match, the number 1 seed, Zhang Zhutong, and the number 4 seed, Zhou Zhen, fought fiercely. It took 6.5 minutes for the winner to be decided. Zhang Zhutong gained the advantage and was the first to enter the top 8. This allowed Lu Cheng, who was watching from the sidelines, to witness the power of his furnace force stacking up close. After the song and dance performance, the referee and the game supervisor changed places to recover their strength. The game supervisor walked to the center of the arena and raised his right hand. The second match of the top 16, Lu Cheng versus Qiu Lin. It's really Cheng. In the living room of the Lu family, Lu Yanwei suddenly stood up. Lu Debang picked up his reading glasses in disbelief. Wang Lili and her husband looked at each other, feeling like they were in a dream. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and stood up from his seat. He sent a message to his girlfriend. Coach Yen, I'm going to the arena. Your encouragement should have arrived by now, right? Yenjika hummed in a low voice and pretended to be surprised. Ching, I'm at the airport. Airport? Lu Cheng was stunned at first, then he understood and burst with joy. You're coming back? This was what he had been looking forward to for days. I'll see you tomorrow. Yenjika sent a shy smile. Are you satisfied with this encouragement? Yes. Satisfied. Lu Cheng's face lit up with joy. He breathed heavily and his heart was full of motivation. I can't lose this match. I can't welcome Coach Yen with failure. He put away his phone and strode along the glorious road. Under the focus of the cameras, he confidently and calmly stepped into the arena and handed his belongings to the former referee and the current match supervisor. Qiu Lin entered the arena at about the same time as him. She wore a light yellow martial arts suit with black stripes embroidered with the words, "So I have heard," embroidered on the front. The big screen also showed the words behind her. I'm the best in the world. These words were not domineering, but had a touch of Zen charm. She was half a head taller than Lu Cheng, with very short hair and neutral facial features. She looked handsome and valiant. After the referee announced the start of the dialogue, she smiled and said, "You're now the public enemy of the martial arts circle in Gaofun." "What do you mean?" Lu Cheng was surprised. "What did I do to deserve this?" Chiu Lin smiled and said, "You've only studied martial arts in another province for a year and you've already beaten everyone else. Doesn't this show that our martial arts circle is too weak?" She was only 21 years old, but she was proficient in all kinds of catchphrases. "You think too much." Lu Cheng was a little amused. There's no first place in literature and no second place in martial arts. It's normal to have comparisons in martial arts. Chiu Lin smiled and said, "So, we all agree that we can't let you enter the finals. Otherwise, why do you think you'll meet me in the round of 16? Believe me, if you win today, your opponent tomorrow will be either Han Zhifei or Zhang Zhutong." "No way? Is it true or not?" Lu Cheng was stunned and soon realized that he had been tricked by Chiu Lin. Is she trying to arouse my resentment? Shake my mind? Then use Buddhist Zen to restrain me? Lu Cheng took a deep breath and visualized the scene of freezing water into ice. He froze all kinds of distracting thoughts and made his mind as clear as a mirror. No matter whether it's true or not, no matter who tomorrow's opponent is, I have to do a good job in this match first. He stopped talking and closed his eyes to adjust the state of his body. The former match supervisor and current referee looked at the electronic clock and raised his right hand again. "Begin." Boom. There was a sudden explosion in the arena and a clap of thunder on the ground. Chiu Lin's martial arts suit swelled and she stepped in front of Lu Cheng. Lotus steps, Buddha voice accompanying steps. Lu Cheng was shocked. He didn't expect Chiu Lin to have mastered the Buddha voice accompanying steps, a family heirloom. It was normal to make a crisp sound by punching, lashing, and kicking the air. However, it was not the same for body movements. One had to cultivate to a certain extent before they could create a sonic boom due to the high-speed movements, clever changes in direction, and corresponding changes in the muscles and fascias as the force circulated. The Taoists called it setting up spirit and stepping on battle, while the Zen Buddhism called it accompanying Buddha's voice. Lotus steps, cloud and thunder accompanying steps. In the broadcast room of Xing Province Satellite TV, guest commentator Yu Hong praised. There were 8 sounds in Buddhism, namely Liberation Sound, Anusrava Sound, Lion's Roar Sound, Great Lion's Roar Sound, Wisdom Sound, Great Wisdom Sound, Cloud Thunder Sound, and Great Cloud Thunder Sound. Among them, the Great Cloud Thunder Sound was the embodiment of the gist of samsara. According to the Buddha voice, the sound was like thunder, which was the name of the Tempest Temple. The Great Wisdom Sound symbolized prajna, and the Great Lion's Roar Sound represented might, which belonged to the kung fu of physical invulnerability. As for the remaining 5 sounds, they varied according to the force and kung fu they practiced. Each had its own function. Due to Chiu Lin's low level, the Cloud Thunder Sound was more of an external manifestation of her body movement. However, it could produce outward vibrations to effectively eliminate the influence of tremor punch and enhance her momentum, which indirectly enhanced the power of the Vajra fist. With one step, the distance between them was close. Lu Cheng could still hear the Cloud Thunder Sound in his ears. He saw Chiu Lin approaching him, swinging her right arm and clenching her iron fist. Her sleeves fluttered as she swung her fist. Maybe it was because of the wind, the bulging muscles, or both. Vajra fist, Vajra swinging pestle. Lu Cheng's breathing seemed to have been affected by the strong wind created by lotus steps. At this critical moment, he took a step back, lowered his center of gravity, and used force concentration. He swung his arms out in between withdrawing and releasing, fiercely dashing forward. Thunder Roar Zen, retreating shock. At the beginning, he used the outburst of the Dan stage without hesitation. Bam! The cannonball exploded on the spot, creating a shockwave. Under Lu Cheng's full force attack, Chiu Lin, who had yet to use force concentration, was like a dandelion seed in the wind. Her feet floated backward. Lu Cheng's right fist hit the metal. It was so painful that he wanted to shake it a few times. However, under such circumstances, how could he let go of this opportunity? He took a deep breath and used force concentration again. He was ready to pounce forward and take advantage of the situation. At this moment, Chiu Lin stopped the slight vibration. Her body swayed like a lotus, and she started to move around with mysterious footwork. It seemed to be from left to right, but it seemed to be from right to left. Rumble. She changed her body shape, followed by clouds and thunder. The arena seemed to be immersed in dark clouds, and the sound of thunder kept echoing. Lu Qing couldn't determine Chiu Lin's position. The condensed qi, blood, force, and spirit were about to erupt, but there was no target. This time, his double explosion seemed to have missed its target. This was Chiu Lin's strategy. She tricked Lu Qing into using his Dan stage outburst, and then took advantage of the moment when he took a breath to attack. I don't believe you can make 10 or 20 consecutive explosions. Boom. With the sound of clouds and thunder, Chiu Lin took the opportunity to flash to Lu Qing's side. Yu Hong, the guest commentator in the TV studio, suddenly said in surprise. He saw that Lu Qing was still standing there quietly. His body was empty, and his breath and spirit were still condensed. There was no change. This seemed normal, but in Yu Hong's eyes, it was very abnormal. The force concentration of a Dan stage martial artist used the will as a fulcrum to condense the qi, blood, force, and spirit. Once they condensed into a fulcrum, there would be rejection before they could completely merge, and they would inevitably erupt uncontrollably. In other words, as long as the force concentration was completed, there would be an outburst of force in the next moment. There would be no delay, unless the martial artist had broken through the Dan stage. That was why Chiu Lin tried to trick Lu Qing into using lotus steps to break out the Dan stage. However, Lu Qing had been using force concentration for more than 1 second. What kind of talent was this? What kind of supernatural ability was this? Teacher Yu Hong frowned. Since Chiu Lin's position was changing and he couldn't lock onto her, Lu Qing didn't rush out. He continued to maintain the state of force concentration, waiting for his opponent's next move. As for why he could maintain it, wasn't this normal? All this time, the Jin Dan in his body hadn't collapsed or disintegrated. The force concentration that imitated the Jin Dan could maintain its balance by rotating, unless he changed it himself. If it weren't for the fact that the other parts of his body couldn't withstand this state, he could maintain it until the end of time. Boom. Chiu Lin rushed to Lu Qing's side from an incredible angle. A light flashed across her face, and her expression became solemn. Then she withdrew her qi and blood and used force concentration. Her muscles swelled and turned into a mighty vajra. She swung her left fist with a metallic luster from above. When she got close, she noticed Lu Qing's strange state. But the arrow was on the string, so she had to shoot. I've been waiting for you. Lu Qing let go of his thoughts. The qi and blood in his dantian gushed out, and his force surged like a tide. He swung his left shoulder and punched back with his right arm. Thunder roar zen, single hand shock. Bam! Another explosion sounded. Both of them shook. Their short hair was blown away by the wind, and they lost control of their feet. Finally, they stepped on the black bricks and broke them. Boom! Chiu Lin operated her force and footwork. She endured the effect of the shock and flashed behind Lu Qing in a strange way. She used force concentration and punched with her right fist. Vajra strikes the bell. Double explosion. Almost at the same time as she punched, Lu Qing took a big step forward. He withdrew his qi and blood, condensed them into a ball, and burst out with a loud bang. He leaned sideways and swept his right arm in a fierce arc toward Chiu Lin behind him. Thunder roar zen, a hoarse shock. Bam! When the two collided, Chiu Lin's muscles wriggled, her fascia contracted, and her strength gathered. In an instant, she condensed Lu Qing's remaining strength, her qi and blood, and the involuntary shock into a single point. This was a brilliant defense and borrowing technique. Vajra fist. Wisdom King guards the temple, immovable as a mountain. She stood firmly in the same place, neither swaying nor moving. Lu Qing's blow seemed to have no effect on her. At this moment, a point in Chiu Lin's dantian exploded. The surging and violent force almost expanded her body, making her blood vessels and tendons stand out and glow with a metallic luster. She, who almost occupied Lu Cheng's line of sight, took a step forward. She looked down and punched fiercely, causing a series of explosions. Vajra fist, Vajra subdues demons. Facing this blow, Lu Cheng didn't dare to take it head-on. He bounced back and retreated quickly. Seeing this, Zhang Zhutong in the lounge sighed and said, "What a pity. What a pity. You can hide now, but you can't hide forever." Facing the combination of Vajra subdues demons and lotus steps, the only way out was to meet force with force. It seemed that he didn't have to worry about that guy's freakish physical strength. Due to the fact that the fights below the high-ranked Dan stage couldn't last long, for the sake of the broadcast, it was impossible to have 2 fights today and 1 tomorrow. Therefore, the semi-finals and the final would be held on the same night. At this moment, Qiu Lin's bones and tendons rang at the same time. She uttered a solemn and grand Zen sound from her mouth. The Zen sound reverberated in her body, making her face red and her qi and blood vigorous. She seemed to be stimulated by something. She was no longer weak and returned to her initial state. I can't give Lu Cheng any chance. Taking advantage of the momentum of punching forward, Qiu Lin made another burst of strength. Lotus flowers bloomed under her feet, closing the distance between her and Lu Cheng in 1 step. Lu Cheng couldn't dodge and didn't even have time to use force concentration. Her momentum was so strong and her posture was so fierce that even the ignorant audience could see who had the upper hand. At this moment, Lu Cheng suddenly stopped. He stomped his feet, swung his body backward, and threw out a punch. He didn't use force concentration, so this punch looked so weak. However, in his mind, a red sun was crashing down and crashing into the frozen river. He didn't retreat to escape, but to numb his enemy and boost her momentum in preparation for this fatal blow. Thunder roar Zen, severe warning. Bam! The 2 fists collided. Lu Cheng flew backward like a kite with a broken string. If he hadn't done so, he wouldn't have been able to neutralize the terrifying strength of Vajra subdues demons and the dreadful metallized body. Otherwise, he would have suffered bone fractures or even broken bones. She won, Qiu Lin won. Many of the audience made a judgment. At this moment, as long as Lu Cheng caught up with Qiu Lin and gave her a final blow, victory would be within reach. However, Qiu Lin was stunned in the arena. Her face quickly turned pale, her lips turned purple, and her eyes seemed to be frozen, with little life in them. She seemed to have comprehended the meaning of Buddha at this moment and went on a mental journey. Lu Cheng landed on his feet and took 2 steps back to neutralize the force. Then, he gathered his force concentration and jumped back to Qiu Lin. He opened his right hand and grabbed her throat. At this moment, Qiu Lin felt that she had just woken up from a long period of ice. She hurriedly metallized her neck to resist the enemy's attack. However, Lu Cheng's attack was just a feint. He took advantage of Qiu Lin's slow absolute reaction because she hadn't fully recovered. He swung his center of gravity and flashed to the back of his opponent. He clapped his hands together and landed them on his opponent's temples. The referee was stunned. He raised his right hand and shouted, "Lu Cheng wins." The audience was silent. No one responded. Chapter 261. Lu Cheng wins. The referee's voice reverberated in the arena. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and withdrew his hands. This battle was much more difficult than he had expected. When he had drawn Qiu Lin, he had already prepared a plan for this match. Qiu Lin was good at Vajra fist, could metallize part of her body, and liked to fight head-on after wearing down her opponent's spirit. She didn't know that he had mastered a simplified physical invulnerability move. With all these factors added up, it wasn't hard to see that the variant version of severe warning was suitable to deal with her. He didn't have to worry about missing or being dodged. Facing such a powerful opponent, he had never thought of holding back his ultimate move or not going all out. However, as soon as the battle began, Lu Cheng found that things weren't as simple as he had imagined. Qiu Lin had made a breakthrough and demonstrated the state of lotus steps and Buddha's voice, which he had never achieved before. This meant that he had no time to prepare for severe warning. After more than 2 months of hard practice and the improvement of his own realm, he could perform severe warning faster and faster. However, it was a simplified move of physical invulnerability after all. He still needed to adjust the corresponding muscles, fascia, and viscera in advance, just like when he used Frost Force in the past. But Qiulin's accompanying Cloud and Thunder wouldn't leave him any time to react. Lu Qing had no choice but to show weakness step by step to boost Qiulin's momentum. After taking her triple explosion head-on, he accurately judged that she was going to use the swastika sound to squeeze out her potential. He seized the opportunity and decisively retreated, quickly preparing for the head-on clash. If Qiulin could complete the quadruple explosion herself, she wouldn't have to spend any time on the sound of the swastika. If she knew that he had a simplified version of physical invulnerability moves, she could use the lotus steps accompanied by the sound of Buddha to avoid a head-on collision. In that case, it would be hard to tell who would win. It could be said that Lu Qing had defeated Qiulin mostly because he had caught her off guard and a hidden ultimate move that she didn't know about. However, this advantage wasn't so effective once it was used. While thinking, Lu Qing looked at Qiulin, who had turned around. He cupped his hands and said, "Thanks for the match." Qiulin's face was still a little pale. She stammered and said, "What kind of ultimate move is that?" Until now, she still couldn't believe that she had lost. She couldn't believe that her mind was frozen just now. Lu Qing smiled and followed her example. Secret. After he finished speaking, he elegantly turned around, endured the fatigue in his mind, and walked down the ring. Triple explosion followed by severe warning was not something that could be easily dealt with. In the lounge, Zhang Jutong suspected for a moment that he was watching a fake match. How could Qiulin, who had just gained the upper hand, lose so easily in such a short time? The camera panned across Qiulin's face, showing her soulless eyes and frost-bitten lips. Zhang Jutong was reminded of Lu Cheng's weak counterattack without using force concentration and Lu Cheng's initiative to back off. It wasn't that he was afraid and didn't dare to take the attack head-on, nor was it that he had forgotten to use force concentration in a panic. He was purposely taking the hit. That move was full of mystery. With Qiulin's strength and physique, as well as the vigorous qi and blood from the swastika sound, a simple ice sect force would never be able to make her stiff. A force concentration could solve the problem and seize the opportunity to win. This move is not simple. Zhang Jutong's pupils shrank, feeling a little scared. If Qiulin hadn't stepped on the grenade and he had encountered Lu Qing in the top 16, he wouldn't have had a good ending either. Lu Qing had explosive power, killing power, control, and stamina. How could he fight against him? Those who could reach the Dan stage were all determined. Zhang Jutong quickly suppressed his fear and began to think about Lu Cheng's performance just now. Why didn't he use it directly? Why did he take a few steps back? Did he need to prepare? Zhang Jutong pondered and gradually came to a conclusion. He had found a way to deal with Lu Cheng's move. At this moment, the broadcast on the big screen switched back to the live broadcast room. The host asked the guest commentator in confusion, "Mr. Yu Hong, I don't understand the last collision." Lu Qing was obviously at a disadvantage. Why did Qiulin stand there like a fool? Yu Hong pondered for a moment and said, "If I'm not wrong, this should be a simplified move of physical invulnerability related to Frost Force." A simplified move of physical invulnerability? The host gasped. A simplified move of physical invulnerability. Zhang Jutong was shocked and raised his head. A simplified move of physical invulnerability? In the lounge next to Zhang Jutong, Han Zhifei was silent for a long time. Han Ying, who had taken advantage of her brother's power, looked at Xiongyu and found that he was also in a daze. Xiongyu suddenly remembered his previous match with Lu Cheng. At that time, he thought he had a chance to win. Now he thought it was ridiculous. A frog at the bottom of a well. Lu Cheng was like an iceberg in the sea. What he showed was only a small part of his strength. Every battle he fought with Lu Cheng refreshed his understanding of his strength. How terrifying was he? What would it be like if he fought with all his strength? She won? Qi Yunfei rubbed her eyes and couldn't believe what she saw. However, No one answered her question. Just a dozen seconds ago, Chiu Lin was majestic like a Vajra descending to earth. Most of the audience believed that she would win soon, but after a short fight, she lost without any resistance. It was a baffling loss. Chi Yunfei quickly came to her senses. Looking at brother Lu Cheng on the stage, who was as calm as a breeze, and thinking of his strange blow that turned the situation around, she intuitively felt what it meant to be unfathomable and what it meant to lift something heavy as if it were light. The worship in her heart turned into small stars that kept popping out. Just a little bit more and I would have really become a brother complex. She looked around excitedly and found that Chen Xiaoxiao and the others had the same reaction as her. Brother Lu Cheng is awesome. In the quiet stadium, she shouted in a sharp and excited voice. Hearing Chi Yunfei's cheers, Ma Shi fell into an inexplicable silence. She recalled what her second brother had said to her during the spring festival. He said that he had more confidence, vision, and knowledge. When he looked back at the conflicts of interests at home, he would feel that they were trivial matters that he didn't need to care too much about. There was no need to fight for anything. She still didn't believe these words. But now, looking at her second brother, who made the whole stadium silent, looking at his confidence and suaveness in his every move, she suddenly felt that it was true. In the living room of the Lu family, there was also silence. When Lu Cheng turned around and walked down the arena, Lu Yanwei blurted out and muttered to himself, "It's really Cheng. When did he become Superman?" If I didn't hear it wrong, this is the top 16 of the Provincial Youth Fighter Championship. That is to say, Cheng can be ranked in the top 16 of the province's young fighters. No, he is already in the top 8. With such strength, after graduating from college, he can be a deputy director or director of a city police station in politics. In business, he can make a lot of money just by opening a martial arts club. There is no doubt that he is either rich or noble. Wang Lili and Lu Jiqiang subconsciously turned to look at Lu Yanwei. After being stunned, he took off his presbyopia glasses, wiped the corners of his eyes, and kept whispering, "Ancestor bless us, ancestor bless us. Cheng brings glory to his ancestors." My idol is a man who is good at creating miracles. He has even mastered the simplified physical invulnerability moves. He really has the mysterious temperament of a hidden master. Brahmin sent a series of red hearts. Eternal nightfall, Yen Shaoling said, spinning in circles expression. No, I'm overflowing with my maiden heart. Get out of my way, I'm going to show off. She posted her admission notice. Because she was too excited, she forgot to mosaic her name. "Oh, so your real name is Yen Shaoling. What a simple and honest name," Unparalleled Dragon King said, sounding like a compliment. Of course, it's different from those flirtatious bitches outside. Seeing that her real name was exposed, Yen Shaoling gave up and didn't care anymore. Anyway, it was not the first time she was careless like this. Focus. Focus on the focus. "Wow, kid, you really got into Songqing University." Brahmin replied in a different tone. "Hey, when school starts, I'll be Lu Cheng's junior sister. I also want to sign up for the martial arts club," Yen Shaoling said excitedly. Biting her handkerchief enviously expression. "Can you get an autograph for me?" "Brahmin, what's our relationship? I'll definitely get a bunch of autographs for you." Yen Shaoling laughed proudly with her hands on her hips. "Our relationship? Father and daughter," Brahmin emphasized. At this time, Okamoto's fan interrupted with a smirk, "Lingling, why do I feel that you're the kind of person who talks big? Don't be shy like a quail when you see Lu Cheng. Don't even dare to speak, let alone ask for an autograph." "Nonsense," Yen Shaoling retorted fiercely. I don't even dare to go near him. In real life, I'm such a weakling, such a quail." Without waiting for others to reply, she continued angrily, "You're such a fake driver. You just lied to me again." That sound was not 4 but 1. "Hey, how did you find out?" Okamoto's fan asked with a shocked expression. Yen Shaoling replied with an expression of, "See this bouquet of flowers? I'd rather throw it on the ground than give it to you. I'm not deaf. Just now the grandpa commentator said, sound, several times. 'Cause men are so powerful. Gu Shuang was stunned by the scene, and then she praised them sincerely. Gu Shuang didn't know much about martial arts. She could only understand the surface of the first few battles. However, Qiu Lin was a famous young warrior in the martial arts world of Gaofeng. Gu Shuang had learned about her strength from various sources and knew how powerful she was. However, such a powerful fighter like Qiu Lin was defeated by Lu Cheng in just a few moves. This comparison made her realize for the first time the real strength of the stupid Cheng mentioned by Ku was. Beside her, Xing Jingjing took a deep breath with a slightly uncertain expression. Sister Jingjing, what kind of nickname do you think Lu Cheng will get? Gu Shuang's thoughts jumped to this topic. When it came to nicknames, Xing Jingjing couldn't help but gnash her teeth. She answered indifferently, I don't know. He finished all the battles in just a few moves. Will he be given the nickname Fast Gunner? Thinking of this, Gu Shuang laughed out loud. In the departure hall, Yenjika heaved a sigh of relief, feeling her heart beating a little fast. She had carefully discussed with Lu Cheng how to fight Qiu Lin before the competition and knew that her boyfriend would seize the opportunity to use simplified physical invulnerability moves to solve the problem. However, there was still a big difference between talking on paper and actually fighting. In particular, no one expected that Qiu Lin had practiced her body movement to the realm of lotus steps and thunder accompanying clouds. Yenjika couldn't help but feel anxious and nervous again. Now that the dust had settled, she sat down obediently with a smile on her face, waiting for Lu Cheng's call. He would definitely call as soon as possible. As soon as Lu Cheng walked out of the arena, he was stopped by the reporter Wu Wei. You look like you're in a hurry. Wu Wei handed him the microphone with a smile. Don't you want to be interviewed? After winning such an important match and defeating such a powerful opponent, the first thing I want to do is to share it with the most important people, family and friends. Lu Cheng's mouth was slightly curved, and his eyes were soft. He was in a good mood. Lu Jisheng, Qi Fang, and the others were watching the broadcast on the big screen, beaming with joy. When they were about to talk about something, they suddenly heard a girl nearby say, "Oh, he looks so cute. I'm a fan now." Chapter 262. Hearing Lu Cheng's answer, Wu Wei laughed. Actually, you don't have to be in such a hurry. Your family and friends, even if they aren't there, will watch the broadcast when they are free. Isn't it the same for you to share your joy with them here? It's not the same. There are many things that I can't say. Lu Cheng made a self-deprecating joke. Saying it out loud would make a lot of people feel sick. Wu Wei almost burst out laughing. She finally managed to stop herself. All right then. I won't ask you what you want to say to your family and friends. First question. As everyone knows, once you complete force concentration, it will immediately rebound and explode, unless you have made a great leap and stepped into the physical invulnerability stage. However, in the match just now, you seem to have maintained force concentration for 2 to 3 seconds? This is not in line with common sense. How did you do it? This question was emphasized several times in the live broadcast room. Lu Cheng was prepared for it. He laughed and said, "Aren't ice and fire contradictory things? But my supernatural abilities of ice and fire exist at the same time and work in a balanced way. I can maintain force concentration with them as the foundation. As for the specific details, it's not something that can be explained in a few words, and it's also a personal martial arts secret." This was the explanation he gave Yenjika, but it was much more detailed, such as the unity of opposites and rotation balance. The balance of the supernatural abilities of ice and fire. In the live broadcast room of Xing Province Satellite TV, Yu Hong repeated it thoughtfully, dispelling most of his doubts. The balance of the supernatural abilities of ice and fire? Geezer sure snorted in front of the TV. It seemed that his bastard disciple had indeed incorporated Longhu Immortal's method of using ice and fire to imitate yin and yang to form Tai Chi into force concentration. That was an original idea. This brat really does have some ideas, so that's how it is. Wu Wei made an enlightened expression. Second question, was the last unique skill you used to stun Qiu Lin was a simplified move of physical invulnerability? There didn't seem to be any warning signs. That's because I haven't mastered it yet. Even if it's a simplified physical invulnerability move, it's still not something I can master and use in actual combat. I have no choice but to simplify it again according to my own situation. Focus on the main part and ignore the details. His own severe warning was a mutated version. Based on the principle of unity of opposites, the visualization diagram was blended with the effect of freezing. Simplified physical invulnerability moves? Wu Wei asked humorously. You could say that. Lu Qing didn't try to defend himself. He smiled warmly. It was rare for him to be confused. Third question, what did you say to Qiu Lin during the conversation? I see that you rarely interact with your opponents in the past. Did you learn the art of attacking the heart this time? Wu Wei asked again with a smile. We just chatted for a bit. I think the battle of martial arts is not about words. Lu Qing smiled gently. He didn't mention what Qiu Lin had said. Who knew if it was true or not? Anyway, he would meet the first 3 seeds sooner or later. Yes. Wu Wei saw that the arena had been cleaned up and there was going to be a star's song and dance performance, so she stopped talking. Lu Qing, thank you for your cooperation. You've already entered the top 8 and you're only 1 step away from the top 4. I wish you all the best. Thank you. Lu Qing smiled. Wu Wei quickly stopped Qiu Lin, who had just completely recovered. She handed the microphone to her curiously. Qiu Lin, what do you think of this match? Qiu Lin touched her cold face and smiled bitterly. I thought I would win before the referee announced the result. Who knew she would be knocked out in 1 move? How did you feel at that time? After being hit by that move? Wu Wei asked the question that was on the minds of many spectators. Qiu Lin thought for a while and answered half jokingly, half sincerely, how did I feel? I was frozen. Frozen? It was really a physical invulnerability move related to the ice sect. Wu Wei felt relieved. During the conversation, what did you talk about with Lu Qing? Qiu Lin's lips were extremely thin. I made up a story to scare him, but it didn't work. What was it? Wu Wei asked curiously. Qiu Lin thought of what had happened and gritted her teeth. It's a secret. Okay. Wu Wei put on a professional smile. Thank you for your cooperation. You actually did a great job today. Everyone thought that you were as cool as King Kong. I personally don't like this metaphor. Qiu Lin's mouth twitched. In the TV station, a leader slapped his thigh. Let's call it the 6 Vajras and 8 Immortals. For what's good about 4? After winning such an important match and defeating such a powerful opponent, the first thing you want to do is to share it with the most important person, family and friends. Yenjika was watching Lu Cheng's interview with headphones on. When she heard this, she turned her head and spat. Her heart became soft and calm. Dimples appeared on her face. Her eyes seemed to have become a rippling lake reflecting the starlight. When Lu Cheng finished the interview and returned to the exclusive lounge, she sat up straight and looked around. This was the VIP lounge of the first-class cabin. There weren't many people. She sat in a corner alone with a small round glass table in front of her. The sofa opposite her was empty. As soon as she put the tablet computer on the small round table, her phone began to vibrate violently with Cheng's unique ringtone. Yenjika's lips curled up. She unplugged her headphones, pressed her pink lips, and put the phone next to her head. Her voice unconsciously became soft. Hello, Cheng. As expected, this idiot called at the first moment. Lu Cheng's heart trembled when he heard her soft voice. He stood up from the sofa and answered with a smile, I almost lost just now. I don't think so. Although it looked like a close call, I felt that it was always under your control. Yenjika said in surprise. Lu Cheng explained with a smile, Qiu Lin was too confident. If she had played her Lotus Steps and Buddha's voice to the extreme, I would have felt awkward and uncomfortable. Unfortunately, I was illuminated by Coach Yan's moral brilliance. She didn't make the best choice and didn't make the best use of her strength. Are you trying to compliment me? Yenjika's eyebrows curled up as she laughed. Cheng even knows how to use tricks. This is the truth. When the reporter interviewed me and asked me to share my joy, I wanted to thank Coach Yen for her guidance and her efforts. Lu Cheng lowered his voice and laughed. You're so mushy. Yenjika couldn't help laughing. She covered her mouth with one hand and laughed until her body trembled. Lu Cheng smiled and listened to the girl being amused by him. He echoed from time to time and waited for her to stop laughing. After more than 10 seconds, they both quieted down and listened to each other's breathing in silence. They seemed to feel each other's hearts. Between breaths, peace grew and emotions brewed. Finally, Lu Cheng said softly, Kuo, what time is your flight? What time will you arrive? 10:05. I'll be there soon. Yenjika was still immersed in the atmosphere just now. Her voice was very soft. You'll arrive at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's not safe in the middle of the night. Lu Cheng said with concern. Gu Shuang will drive to pick me up. Tomorrow is the quarterfinals. You have to sleep on time and have a normal schedule, okay? Humph, or I'll ignore you. Yenjika smiled with hidden joy in her eyes. I'll listen to Coach Yen and wait for you to visit me tomorrow. Lu Cheng replied with a smile. They chatted for a while. Yenjika suddenly remembered something. She pursed her lips and tried not to laugh. Let's continue talking on QQ later. You should call your parents first. Someone just said that he wanted to share with his family and friends. Hee, that sentence was changed at the last minute and was just perfunctory. Does this count as forgetting his mother when he has a wife? Hey, what am I thinking about? You're right. Lu Cheng just remembered the previous conversation. After ending the call, he quickly called his mother. Mom, I went back to the lounge to take a shower. I'm all sweaty. Lu Cheng explained with a guilty conscience. Chi Feng didn't know what was going on in the exclusive lounge. Hearing this, she forgot about her doubts and said with a smile, You should take a shower. Cheng, are you hurt? Mom, that woman looked very fierce. I'm fine. I'm fine. There's a special physiotherapist here to help me relax. Lu Cheng added a question that his mother must be concerned about. Mom, I'm in the quarterfinals now. I can get at least 100,000 yuan. I know. Have a good rest in there. Don't rush out. Chi Feng smiled even more happily. Over the past few days, she had already learned about the bonus from Jiang Fei, Chao Lele, and the others. While Lu Cheng was on the phone, Yenjika logged into the BBS and refreshed the posts, feeling the excitement of her boyfriend's fans. She had mixed feelings about Eternal Nightfall, Yen Shaoling wanting to study at Songqing University and join the martial arts club. On the one hand, she was delighted and found it interesting because this junior sister was very cute. On the other hand, she felt a little weird when she thought about how much Yen Shaoling admired Cheng and was also a member of the martial arts club. With a smile, she scrolled through the replies. When she was about to quit, she suddenly saw a new post. I'm a lip reader. Let me interpret the conversation between Lu Cheng and Qiu Lin. Oh, I forgot to ask. Yenjika clicked in and found an ID called Bull Demon King. Qiu Lin said that you are now the public enemy of the martial arts circle in Gaofan. Yenjika read one line after another. When she saw that Lu Cheng's next opponent was either Han Zhifei or Zhang Zhutong, she frowned and felt a little angry. Is this true? Or is it fake? Did Qiu Lin deliberately make it up to provoke, or is it true? Thinking about it, Yenjika clicked on the chat box in the small group and tagged Xing Jingjing first. Sister Jingjing, can you help me find a reliable lip reader? The police system often cooperated with similar experts. Why do you want this? Xing Jingjing asked curiously. To interpret the conversation between Cheng and Qiu Lin. Yenjika didn't hide it. What's wrong with their conversation? Did Qiu Lin flirt with your boyfriend? Gu Shuang popped up. Yenjika answered without hesitation. Shuang, do you know any reporters or public relations companies? After confirming that, I want to expose the inside story and make it more popular. In this way, no matter whether this matter is true or not in the martial arts circle in Gaofan, we have to avoid arousing suspicion. Gossip is a fearful thing. Chapter 263. After ending the call with his mom, Lu Cheng walked into the bathroom to wash off his tiredness. Wiping his hair with a towel, he returned to the sofa leisurely. When he picked up his phone, he found that it was full of notifications. So many? Lu Cheng opened them in surprise and read them one by one. Du Liu sent a thumbs-up emoji. Cheng, you're awesome. You're the only one I admire in our class. Work hard and get into the top 4. Xing Chengwu sent a message with his long hair. Oh, you did well to show off our Xiushan's prestige. Work hard. Old Wu, his class teacher in high school, also sent a message. Lu Cheng, very good. I wish you a bright future in martial arts. Lu Yanwei sent an emoji with eyes wide open. Cheng, let's talk about it in detail when you come back. Grandpa wants me to tell you that you're the pride of our Lu family. Wu Ting sent an emoji of scattering flowers all over the sky. Sir Lu, you were so cool just now. You'll definitely get into the top 4. Zhang Qiufan sent a smiley emoji. Sir Lu, you're awesome. Wei Renjie sent a concise message. Congratulations on getting into the top 8. All of them were congratulatory messages from his acquaintances. Lu Cheng was stunned at first, but then he felt proud and happy. The primetime broadcast of Xing Province Satellite TV was really special. Old Wu, his class teacher in high school, loved martial arts and would pay attention to the youth tournament. It was not surprising that he recognized him. But he didn't expect that his cousins would see it too. I wonder if Empress Dowager and father-in-law saw it. What would they say about my performance? Lu Cheng happily shared the news with Yenjika. He took out the ointment and started to apply it on his wounds. It was not fun to fight with a metallized fist. It was much more difficult than standing still and waiting for him to hit a piece of iron. Yenjika finished the last task and exhaled contentedly. I won't tell Chung about such a small thing. Otherwise, he'll always praise me. Just then, she heard the airport announcement that her flight would be delayed by an hour. Her heart skipped a beat. She logged into the app to check the details. Due to the weather, the flight could not land and had been redirected to the airport in the neighboring province. In other words, the flight would be delayed by more than an hour, and the flight might even be cancelled. I'm so angry, she muttered to herself in a low voice. However, she still had to maintain a smile as she chatted with Cheng. She couldn't let him notice or worry about her, which would affect his rest at night. Yenjika took a deep breath and was about to reply when she saw a new message from Lu Cheng. Ku, your flight is delayed by an hour? How did you know? Yenjika asked in surprise and bewilderment. Lu Cheng smirked and said, Jiangnan Feishing Province, 10:05 p.m. With these two pieces of information, if I still can't find out the flight number, wouldn't I be an idiot? The moment I found out, I downloaded that quasi-software, followed it and asked for a reminder. Yenjika lowered her eyes and smiled. Her bad mood seemed to have dissipated a lot. She scolded him in a low voice. Idiot, then you won't arrive until 2 in the morning? Won't you be waiting for a long time? Lu Cheng asked with concern. It's okay. It's normal for the flight to be delayed. Yenjika replied with a cute emoji of holding back tears. In the past, when the flight was delayed at night, she would rather cancel it and arrange accommodation. But this time, she didn't want to postpone it for another day. I can't let Ku wait for nothing. With this thought in mind, Lu Cheng chatted with the girl until almost 11 p.m. Unfortunately, the flight was delayed again and wouldn't land until 12:30 p.m. Why don't you ask your cousin to pick you up? Why don't you come back tomorrow? Lu Cheng suggested. Even if he didn't have experience in flying, he could tell that his girlfriend wouldn't be able to fly until at least 1 p.m. Yenjika pursed her lips and replied with a blank emoji, I've been waiting for so long. I can't give up halfway. If there's any more delay, I'll go back. If there's any more delay, I'll probably cancel the flight. This reminds me of a famous saying, since you're already here. Lu Cheng tried to lighten the mood to ease his girlfriend's mood. Don't say that. Because of this saying, since you're already here, I've suffered a lot. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. She suddenly felt that waiting wasn't so unbearable. Lu Cheng wanted to ask her what she had suffered, but considering the situation here, he decided to postpone it. Can Gu Shuang still come to pick you up? I don't know. I don't know if she can fly. I told her to go to sleep first. I'll call her when I land. Yenjika had already made arrangements. Before Lu Cheng could continue the previous topic, she realized something and said with a frowning and angry emoji, "You're still awake. What time is it? Are we still going to compete tomorrow?" Lu Cheng's heart trembled when Coach Yen showed her power. He quickly explained, "I'm just worried that you'll be lonely waiting for me. And the competition is at night. You can catch up on sleep tomorrow afternoon." "I'm not a kid anymore." Yenjika pursed her lips and replied with an embarrassed emoji. "You're not a kid, but you're a fairy." Lu Cheng smiled and typed quickly on the keyboard. Yenjika smiled and turned her head to the side. Then she replied, Okay, you go to sleep. I'm a little sleepy and need to take a nap. I'll send you a message when I board, but you're not allowed to reply. Sleep well." "Okay, good night. Be careful to keep warm." Lu Cheng reminded her. Ku said that the cold air in the airport was very strong. Lu Cheng put down his phone and quickly fell into a deep sleep. But he didn't sleep well because he was still worried about someone and was waiting for a reminder. He woke up immediately when the sound rang. He picked up his phone and found that it was a message from Yenjika after she boarded the plane. Finally, clenching fist in tears expression, the girl said. The current time was 12:50 p.m. Lu Cheng smiled and replied with a patting head emoji. "Go back to sleep." Glaring at him expression, Yenjika asked for a blanket with a gentle expression and a smile. Relieved, Lu Cheng slept more soundly this time, but he still didn't turn his phone to silent mode. After that, he woke up again and received a reminder from the software. Due to airport traffic control, the flight won't depart until 2 p.m. Yenjika didn't send a similar message because she was covered with a blanket and fell into a deep sleep half an hour ago. The flight will depart at 2 p.m. and land at around 5 p.m. Lu Cheng thought for a while and set the alarm at 4:50 p.m. Waking up half an hour earlier wouldn't make much of a difference. He could still catch up on sleep in the afternoon. At 4:50 p.m., the alarm rang. Lu Cheng didn't need to struggle. He sat up and pressed the stop button. He picked up his phone and checked if there were any messages from Yenjika. After finding nothing, he opened the software and confirmed the landing time, 5:15 p.m. "I can make it, right?" Ku said that it would take more than 10 minutes to get out of the airport. Lu Cheng quickly washed his face, rinsed his mouth, changed his clothes, took his wallet and rushed out of the room. At 5 o'clock a.m., Gaofen was quiet. Only the street lights were shining. The air was cold and refreshing without the hustle and bustle of the day. The road was empty except for the occasional speeding car. While looking for a taxi, Lu Cheng thought of a famous saying. He chuckled and said to himself, "I've finally seen what Gaofen looks like at 5 o'clock a.m. Under normal circumstances, there was no lack of taxis outside a good hotel. He didn't wait long before he found one. When he got in, he sent a message to Yenjika. "I'm on my way to the airport. I'll pick you up. Don't call Gu Shuang. Don't disturb her sleep." There was no traffic jam. Lu Cheng leaned back on the seat and closed his eyes to rest. At 5:20 p.m., the software's reminder and Yenjika's message arrived one after another. "Didn't I tell you to sleep well?" Yenjika sent an angry emoji. "I just woke up half an hour earlier. It doesn't make much of a difference. Besides, I'll catch up on sleep in the afternoon." Lu Cheng typed happily. "I'm going to see Ku soon." "Since you're already here, what else can I do?" Yenjika sent an emoji to reply. But when she typed the words, "since you're already here," she suddenly smiled and felt inexplicably sweet in her heart. I don't mean what I say, the traffic at night was very fast. Lu Cheng waited for 2 or 3 minutes in the arrival hall before he saw the fairy he had been thinking about day and night dragging her luggage out. She was dressed very simply in a white t-shirt, jeans, sneakers, and a knitted sweater. Her eyes were bright and her facial features were delicate as usual. Lu Cheng stared blankly for a few seconds. Then he walked over and took the suitcase. Holding the girl's slightly cold hand, he pulled her out like an old married couple. Unfortunately, there were too many people here. Yenjika lowered her head and let her hair down. Her face was red as she quietly followed behind Lu Cheng. After a few steps, Lu Cheng chuckled and said, "I feel like I'm taking my wife home." Bah! Shameless! Big hooligan! Yenjika turned her head and looked to the side. She scolded him in a low voice, but her eyes were full of shyness and happiness. "Why don't you rest at my place for a while? We can go there after Gu Shuang has enough sleep," Lu Cheng suggested. Yenjika lowered her eyes and said, "Then I'll send her a message so she can sleep peacefully." Seeing the girl agree so easily, Lu Cheng felt that she trusted him. While his heart was warm, he teased her. "You trust me so much? Aren't you afraid that I'll do something bad?" Yenjika glanced at him. "Humph! You have to do morning exercises and compete. How can you have the mood and ability to do bad things?" "I'm not afraid. I'm a person with abnormal physical strength," Lu Cheng joked in a low voice. Yenjika suddenly blinked her eyes and put on a pitiful look. "I'm so pitiful and sleepy. You still want to bully me?" She was getting more and more relaxed in front of her boyfriend. Lu Cheng couldn't resist her cuteness. He quickly said, "Okay, I won't do bad things." Yenjika laughed in a low voice. She was very proud. They got in the car. It felt like they hadn't talked much before time flew by. Their destination was close at hand. Lu Cheng held the girl's hand and dragged the luggage into the elevator. They came to his room. "Not bad." Yenjika opened the door and looked around. Lu Cheng closed the door and didn't care about the luggage. He stepped in front of the girl and hugged her tightly. Smelling her familiar fragrance, he whispered in her ear, "I miss you." Yenjika's body was stiff at first, but after hearing Lu Cheng's words, she softened and quietly hugged her boyfriend's back. They kissed fiercely, venting their longing for each other after not seeing each other for a long time. The girl stepped back step by step and unconsciously leaned against the bed. Lu Cheng pulled his head up with great patience. Looking at the girl's flushed face and intoxicated eyes, he almost kissed her again. You still have the competition?" Yenjika avoided his eyes and said shyly, panting slightly. "I know." Lu Cheng almost howled to the sky. "I'm going to wash my face with cold water." "Go, I'll go with you for the morning exercise later." Yenjika smiled and rolled her eyes. Lu Cheng rushed into the bathroom and stayed there for a few minutes. He wiped his face and walked out. But he saw Yenjika lying on the bed, breathing deeply. She had fallen asleep. She fell asleep in just a few minutes. It seemed that she was really tired. Lu Cheng didn't have any other thoughts. He squatted down and held the girl's ankle. He listened to her breathing and carefully helped her take off her shoes so that she wouldn't be woken up by the wrong movement. When the two shoes fell to the ground, Lu Cheng followed the rules and helped her take off her sweater. Then he rolled the quilt and covered her body. After doing all this, he looked at Yenjika's beautiful and quiet sleeping face. He smiled, bent down, and kissed her pink lips. He whispered, "Good morning, little fairy." When he raised his head, the rising sun shone in a few rays of light, dyeing the bed with a little light, setting off the girl in her sleep, picturesque, peaceful, and beautiful. Seeing this, Lu Cheng's heart suddenly calmed down. This was the meaning of protection. He closed his eyes and recalled the various things that had happened recently. Naturally, he made an attempt to withdraw. Qi and blood were withdrawn, strength was retained, and spirit was wrapped. When they rotated and collapsed to a certain extent, they naturally intertwined. Lu Cheng suddenly felt a sense of perfection and perfection. Everything around him was reflected in his heart. When the conditions are right, success will come naturally. Chapter 264. At this moment, Lu Cheng felt that his body was blood, blood was qi, qi was power, and power was spirit. His whole body was smooth and transparent, reflecting his surroundings. The girl's soft and thin breathing entered his ears and seemed to be connected with his pulse. Rays of light swayed from his heart and shone together with the morning light outside the window. The human body began, round and bright. Following a strange feeling, Lu Cheng closed his eyes, held his breath, dropped his ears, and cut off his senses. However, in his heart, In his mind, little by little, he outlined the scene of the outside world. The dark brown carpet, the curtains that were not closed, the white quilt rolled up on the big bed, the sleeping girl with her legs curled up on her side, the suspicious crystal at the corner of her mouth, the birds flying by outside, the old man jogging, the bright sunshine. This picture was not static, but was developing and changing as if it was real. For example, an ant crawled to the window and tried to come in, but couldn't penetrate the smooth glass. The wonderful feeling quickly faded away. Lu Cheng opened his eyes and dispersed the state of forced concentration. He looked at the window and was surprised to see the ant crawling under the sun. The ant didn't appear just now. What's going on? Lu Cheng was inexplicably surprised. He wanted to try again, but couldn't grasp the wonderful feeling from before. Was it the initial fusion of force, qi, blood, and spirit during the body Big Dan that triggered the Jin Dan and brought out its characteristics similar to the ice mirror? Or was it a little mixed in? Lu Cheng thought about it and planned to explore it bit by bit during his daily training. He moved his body and felt the changes of stepping into the Dan stage. To be honest, since breaking through was a process and not a node, he had already improved most of what he needed to improve. Currently, he didn't have any fundamental improvement. It was only because of the initial fusion of his spirit, force, and qi and blood that his force concentration became smoother and more natural. The explosive power had also increased a little. Although it was strange to use the phrase, like an arm moving a finger, to describe it, it was indeed a good way to express the subtle feeling of exerting force and controlling one's body. From this point of view, he was qualified to get the certificate of professional 7th pin after being able to explode several times, master the frost force, and have a simplified version of physical invulnerability moves. Of course, there was still a gap in the foundation between him and the real 7th pin or even the experienced 8th pin. From the Dan stage onwards, he would cultivate the subtle structure of the body, improve the body from the essence, break the limits of the human body, and increase the overall strength, speed, and so on. This was also one of the 2 keys in the future, the connecting heaven and earth and the internal root pulp training. According to some half-true and half-false information circulating on the internet, the ultimate of the internal root pulp training was that one's willpower and spirit could influence the genes. Combined with visualization, core force training, and the feedback of nature, they would gradually mutate. Therefore, the offspring of the high-ranked Dan stage and the real mighty ones of physical invulnerability would have a situation where they were born with supernatural abilities. And the masters who had reached the same level would really experience Qigong deviation, which was symbolized by the collapse of the genes. Phew, with another half a year to improve my physique, I'll be able to reach professional 7th pin. Lu Cheng thought happily. He stepped to the window and pulled the curtain and the shade cloth to block out the sunlight, making the room dark and suitable for sleeping. He looked back at Yenjika's quiet and beautiful side profile and whispered with a smile, "Coach Yen, I'm going to the morning exercise." He left the room quietly, closed the door softly, and went to the nearby park to consolidate the realm of Dan Qi. After breaking through this threshold, he would really have a firm foothold in the martial arts world and be able to bear the initial responsibility for Ku's future. Not needing to waste time, Lu Cheng saved a lot of time and put more energy into adapting to this realm. In the past, his martial arts were mainly based on the fighting style of the body refining state. Although it didn't mean that he couldn't use these basic moves when he reached the Dan stage, he had to integrate them with the characteristics of his current realm and not copy them completely. And the fight with Chiu Lin, a mighty ones of the Dan stage, had taught him a lot. Especially the move, Wisdom King Guards the Temple. It had given him his own ideas and direction to try. Lu Cheng's muscles swelled to create friction, canceling out the explosive sounds of punches and kicks. Lu Cheng began to practice the moves. The more he practiced, the more silent they became. Turbulence was hidden in the calm waves. In the sunny restaurant, Yu Hong sat in the parent seat, squinted his eyes and smiled. The sun rises so early in summer, and so does the heat. He picked up a stack of newspapers and casually flipped through them, waiting for his wife to give him breakfast. Now only a stubborn old man like you is reading newspapers. Everyone has learned to surf the internet. His wife came out of the kitchen with a plate and nagged. "I'm used to it." Yu Hong took the plate with a smile. After eating in silence for a while, his eldest grandson, who came to visit during the summer vacation, suddenly said, "Grandpa, Grandpa, look at this news and these Weibo posts." "What news?" Yu Hong took the phone, puzzled. He squinted and was shocked by the title. "Shady. The Youth Competition Organizing Committee of Xing Province deliberately suppresses geniuses." Swiping his finger, Yu Hong quickly read the rest. At the end, he couldn't help but curse, "Ridiculous. Do reporters nowadays have any professional ethics? How can this kind of thing be published in the news? How can you take what they say seriously?" His eldest grandson looked at him in fear and whispered, "But there's a lot of noise on the internet." "Noise? Let me see," Yu Hong said with a sullen face. As the content came into view, he gradually frowned. There were two groups of people arguing on the internet. One group was to his liking, thinking that what they say during the chat should not be taken seriously, and that it was a psychological attack. The other group believed that there was a reason for this. In the martial arts world, the fight for face, so it wasn't surprising that there would be such suppression. As the argument went on, it became more and more popular. Not only did the people who were paying attention to the youth tournament join in, but even some people who had nothing to do rolled up their sleeves and chose sides to argue. After reading for a long time, Yu Hong felt that he couldn't go on like this. He picked up his phone and called the chairman of the Provincial Martial Arts Association. The number of high-ranked Dan stage fighters in the province could be counted on one hand. How could they not know each other? "Old Ian, have you seen the news? The one about shady business?" Yu Hong went straight to the point. Ian Huaming smiled bitterly. "Yes, I saw it. When I first heard that there was a lip-reading expert, I didn't take it seriously. It's only been one night. How did it become so big? Sigh, some reporters just want to make a big news, make a name for themselves, and criticize everyone. That little girl Chiu Lin is too much. Of all things, she just has to scare people in this aspect. Also, although my friends on the internet are enthusiastic, they don't necessarily care about this kind of news. If they don't care, it will fade away. Not many people will take it seriously." He poured out his grievances. "We old guys don't know what's going on the internet. Who knows what's going on? What are you going to do?" Yu Hong comforted him. "Hold a press conference. Ask Chiu Lin to come and clarify. Tell her some common sense about the chat time, and then deal with it coldly." Ian Huaming sighed. Yu Hong thought for a moment and asked in a low voice, "What if Lu Cheng really picked Han Zhifei or Zhang Zhutong tonight?" Ian Huaming was silent for a moment and answered, "Then it's like yellow mud falling into your pants. Even if it's not sh*t, it's sh*t. He probably wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River." Before Yu Hong could say anything, he said to himself, "There are two ways. First, ask the reporter who exposed the news to draw lots and let her draw whatever result she wants. Second, just to be safe, don't let Lu Cheng pick Han Zhifei or Zhang Zhutong." At 8:30, Lu Cheng, who was beginning to feel tired, put away his frame, bought breakfast, and returned to the hotel. This time, he gained a lot from the training. The sun was shining outside the window, and the room was dim and fragrant. Seeing that Yen Zhike was still sleeping, he gently put down the breakfast, found a change of clothes and other things, and turned to go out. "Hey, Qinrui, are you up?" He called his old classmate without hesitation. "I'm up. We've finished our morning exercise. Do you want to have breakfast together? The breakfast in this hotel is pretty good." Qinrui answered with a smile. Lu Cheng laughed. "I've already eaten. I want to take a bath in your room." "What's wrong? Is the bathroom in your room broken?" Qinrui asked in surprise. Lu Cheng took a breath. "It's a long story. Don't ask." He couldn't say that Yen Zhike was sleeping on his bed, and he didn't dare to take a bath in his own room for fear of waking her up. What would others think if he said that? But Qinrui was puzzled, but he still agreed. After taking a bath, Lu Cheng returned to the room. Sitting on the bed and looking at the girl's pure and flawless face, he suddenly felt that he needed to catch up on sleep. He took off his pants, pulled the quilt, carefully got on the bed, and moved to the side of his little fairy. Yenjika unfolded her arms and touched his body. Feeling his warmth, she woke up with a start. She opened her misty eyes and stammered with a confused look, "You're so cute." What's going on? I'm here to catch up on sleep." Lu Cheng supported his body with his left hand and laughed. "Catch up on sleep?" Yenjika looked out of the window blankly. "What time is it?" "It's almost 9 o'clock. I've finished my morning exercise and brought you breakfast." Lu Cheng laughed. "But you're so easy to wake up. I've been so gentle. It would be strange if I didn't wake up when there was suddenly someone beside me." Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and gradually recalled what had happened before. She groaned. "You didn't wake me up. We agreed to do morning exercise together. I saw you sleeping so soundly. How could I bear to do that?" Lu Cheng slowly moved closer to his little fairy and touched her skin. Yenjika pouted playfully. "I just felt a little sleepy and wanted to take a nap to recover my energy so that it wouldn't affect my morning exercise. Anyway, you could wake me up with you beside me." But in the end, humph. After the torment of waiting in the middle of the night, the kiss with Cheng made her completely relieved. She relaxed and felt sleepy. When Lu Cheng tried to hug her, she suddenly lifted the quilt and got off the bed from the other side. Where are you going?" Lu Cheng asked with disappointment. Yenjika didn't turn around. She pursed her lips and said unhappily, "To change into pajamas." "Okay, I'll wait for you," Lu Cheng responded happily, deliberately imitating his little fairy's tone. "You're getting more and more funny." Yenjika was squatting beside the trolley box, laughing so hard that she almost couldn't stand up. The blush on her face when she said, "To change into pajamas," dissipated a lot. She brushed her teeth and changed into a half-sleeved nightgown. She closed her eyes, gathered her courage, and crawled back into bed. Then she put her feet on Lu Cheng's thighs and laughed in a low voice. Hairy legs. The familiar body temperature, smell, and feeling made her feel dizzy. She recalled the half-naked photo that Lu Cheng posted and couldn't help but chuckle. "What are you laughing at?" Lu Cheng felt the girl's skin. "Nothing, just a smile." Yenjika half turned her body and curiously put her hand on Lu Cheng's abdomen. The two touched closely. The light in the room was dim and a faint fragrance floated to Lu Cheng's nose. Lu Cheng immediately breathed heavily, his heart beat fast, and his body excited. Yenjika was also a good martial artist with listening skill. She immediately felt it. She blushed and patted Lu Cheng lightly. "Sleep well. What are you thinking about? It's hard for me not to have any reaction when you're like this." Lu Cheng said helplessly. "Then I'll sleep well too." Yenjika quickly adjusted her body and lay down obediently, secretly laughing. "Sleep, sleep." Lu Cheng turned around and hugged her, forcing himself to freeze water into ice. Throughout the day, Yenjika went to report to Gu Shuang's place and made up for her training. Lu Cheng also accompanied his family and friends for dinner. In the evening, after studying the situation of each opponent again, Lu Cheng took a deep breath and stood up. "I should go to the stadium." Yenjika stood up and helped him tidy up his collar with a gentle look. She stood on tiptoe and kissed him on the lips. Her face was flushed and she said, "Good luck." Chapter 265. It was a summer evening and the clouds were burning. There was no sign of dimming yet. Lu Cheng walked in the twilight in a good mood. He was slowly building up his fighting spirit from the warmth of staying in his room all day. He was only one step away from the top 4. At that time, he could also tell his master the good news. When he entered the stadium and came to the exclusive lounge, he saw Fong Siki, the staff member who was in charge of serving the seated fighters. "Hello." The white-collared beauty bowed with a standard 8-tooth smile. "Hello." Lu Cheng nodded and greeted her. He felt a little strange. In the past 2 days, Fong Siki and he were somewhat familiar with each other. She would always find topics to chat with him outside of politeness to make him feel at home. But now, she was obviously alienating him. Lu Cheng shook his head and didn't think too much about the change in her attitude. He walked to his room. Suddenly, After stepping into the dance stage, he sensed that Fong Siki was sizing him up with a strange look in her eyes. "What's wrong?" Lu Qing asked calmly. He didn't hide his confusion. "Nothing." Fong Siki lowered her gaze at first, then asked curiously, "Mr. Lu, didn't you see the news?" "What news?" Lu Qing asked in surprise. Was there any news that I should pay attention to? After last night's competition, he had browsed the forums and news to enjoy the praise in the reports and the happiness of his fans. But he didn't find anything that could make Fong Siki act strangely. As for today, he had hugged his little fairy to catch up on sleep. Then he focused on studying more battle videos of the remaining 7 opponents. Finally, he had a close conversation with Yen Zhika. He had been living a good life. How could he have the time to pay attention to outdated news? There were 2 most valuable parts of news related to martial arts competitions. The first was when the competition had just ended. There would be news from various angles. The winner would be showered with compliments, while the loser would need to be mentally prepared. The second was the in-depth report that would be released every few hours. This was more technical. Every punch and kick during the fight would be analyzed under a magnifying glass. This was Lu Cheng's favorite content. It could help him to summarize after the competition and find his own problems that were difficult to find. The next day, most of the similar news articles were rehashed. Lu Cheng would only focus on them when he was free. "You don't know?" Fong Siki raised her head and looked into Lu Cheng's eyes. She felt his eyes were deep and dark. "It's not a big deal. I'm going to do something else." She stomped away in her high heels, leaving Lu Cheng at a loss. "What news?" With this question in mind, Lu Cheng stepped into his own lounge. He took out his phone, logged into the website, and started searching. What he saw gave him a fright. His fan forum was a mess. A bunch of people were quarreling there, making Eternal Nightfall and Brahmin so angry that they stomped their feet. After browsing for a while, Lu Qing figured out what had happened. A lip-reading expert had interpreted Qiu Lin's words. Then it was accidentally seen by a reporter and exposed. It raised a storm of doubts about the youth tournament organizing committee. As one of the protagonists, Lu Qing was also mentioned. Some people sympathized with him, wanted to cheer for him, and supported him firmly. On the other hand, some people suspected that he was the culprit. They deliberately hyped up the news and pretended to be weak. They didn't hesitate to smear the organizing committee and the Gaofan martial arts world to avoid a strong enemy. "I got shot even though I didn't do anything. No wonder Fong Siki looked at me like that." Lu Cheng suddenly realized. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fong Siki was a staff member of the Martial Arts Association and the Youth Tournament Organizing Committee. He saw the post about the lip-reading expert, Bull Demon King. But he didn't care about it. He thought it was just a small dispute in his own forum and wouldn't spread. His mood wasn't affected much because there were tall people to hold the sky up. The focus of the dispute was undoubtedly the Youth Tournament Organizing Committee. He didn't receive as much attention as the reporter who was criticized for his lack of professional ethics. "I don't want to think about it. I'll take whoever I get." Lu Qing closed his eyes and adjusted his mind. "Anyway, I never thought about avoiding Zhang Zhutong and Han Jifei. I was ready to fight them." At 7:20, Fong Siki knocked on the door of Lu Cheng's lounge and told him he could enter. He was sitting in the first seat on the left of the second row of the guest seats. Lu Cheng patted his martial arts suit, stood up, and walked to the exit. Here, he met Zhang Zhutong, Han Jifei, and Lu Xuanjun. These martial artists kept a distance from him quietly, as if they wanted to avoid arousing suspicion. They were the mainstays of the Gaofan martial arts world. "Do you think he did it himself? Did he use tricks to guarantee the top 4? Zhang Zhutong put his hands in his pockets and asked leisurely. It was unclear whether he was talking to Han Jifei on his left or Lu Xuanjun on his right. He didn't lower his voice, as if he wasn't afraid that Lu Qing would hear him. Or rather, he deliberately let Lu Qing hear him. "Maybe the ultimate beneficiary is the most suspicious," Lu Xuanjun said concisely. Zhang Zhutong chuckled. "Maybe he was scared by Qiu Lin's words and didn't want to fight me in the quarterfinals." That's why he found someone to make a big deal out of it so that he can take advantage of his freakish physical strength. After witnessing Lu Cheng defeat Qiu Lin, he regarded Lu Cheng as the opponent second only to Han Zhifei in this competition. So, from now on, it was time to start a spiritual battle. "You're better at telling stories than Anderson?" Lu Cheng complained but didn't respond. He would lose if he took it too seriously. It would easily affect his state of mind in this competition. He took a breath and visualized the scene of water turning into ice. At this moment, Han Zhifei said in a low voice, "It's not necessarily him. He's not the only one who benefited. Who else?" Lu Xuanzhen frowned in confusion. "The organizing committee and the TV station." Han Zhifei looked around and said, "Don't you think the competition has attracted a lot of attention with such revelations and quarrels?" Those who didn't watch the youth tournament and only glanced at the news, as well as some netizens from other provinces, were attracted to watch the broadcast. In this impetuous era, it was good to have attention, whether it was praise or criticism. Lu Xuanzhen sighed and didn't say anything else. He was convinced by Han Zhifei. This kind of hype was a specialty of the entertainment circle. Some movies and TV series would quarrel again and again before they were broadcast. For the organizing committee, as long as they showed fairness in the end, they could use this quarrel to attract more attention. How could it not be a good thing? For the TV station, it could improve the ratings and reach more people without hurting their reputation. How could it not be a good thing? Zhang Zhutong nodded thoughtfully and said with a smile, "It seems that I misunderstood." He said it casually as if the previous accusation had never happened. When Yenjika arrived at the competition venue, the guests had already taken their seats. She followed the prompts and found her seat. She found Gu Shuang and Xing Jingjing. "Is there any problem over there?" Yenjika asked cautiously. Gu Shuang smiled and said, "There won't be any problem. It has nothing to do with us." Then she sent the rest of the message to be on the safe side. If the organizing committee wants to investigate, they will only find the TV station. They also want to make a hot topic. Under Yenjika's suggestion, she didn't come forward directly. Instead, she asked her friends to contact the TV station's people and then found a public relations company that had a good relationship with the TV station. "Then I'm relieved." Yenjika sighed with relief. She couldn't let this affect Cheng's image. While they were talking in low voices, many people were attracted by the beautiful Yenjika, including Chao Lele and Qiu Hailin in the back row. Look, isn't that Yenjika from the third class?" Chao Lele pulled her teacher's sleeve. Qiu Hailin looked over and saw Yenjika in a chiffon blouse with her hair in a half bun. She looked so beautiful in the noisy environment that Qiu Hailin, as a girl, was a little absent-minded. "It's her. She also came to watch the game, Yenjika?" Hearing their words, Jiang Fei and Cheng Qili, who knew about their secret relationship, turned their heads in surprise. They followed the direction of their eyes and saw the girl who was more and more beautiful. This was the first time they saw Yenjika after more than a year. They only felt that she was more beautiful than the goddess in their memories. She had more confidence and temperament than she did in high school. Especially when her eyes moved, they were really dazzling. Being looked at like this, Yenjika, who had achieved a small success in meditation, had a subtle feeling. She looked over subconsciously and saw a few strange but familiar men and women. Fatty Jiang. She recognized Jiang Fei first because Cheng showed her the group photo in his mobile phone. With this, she immediately understood that they were Lu Cheng's relatives and friends. The one with half-frame black-rimmed glasses and pimples should be Cheng Qili, old Cheng. The guy with a drunken face should be Tao Xiaofei. The one with a head showing was the class leader of the fourth class, Qiu Hailin. The delicate girl was Cheng's old deskmate, Chao Lele. Well, the uncle with the gold-rimmed glasses, wasn't he Cheng's father? And the aunt next to him was Cheng's mother? For some reason, Yenjika felt inexplicably shy. She blushed and shyly greeted Jiang Fei and the others. "Fatty Jiang knows my relationship with Cheng. I can't be impolite in front of uncle and aunt." After greeting them, she immediately turned around and sat down. Covering her burning face, she complained to Gu Shuang, "Why did you choose this place? What happened here?" Gu Shuang was confused. Cheng's parents are sitting behind us," Yan Zhike whispered. Gu Shuang was stunned at first, then laughed out loud. "What a coincidence! An ugly daughter-in-law has to meet her parents-in-law. Bah!" Yan Zhike was shy and embarrassed. "Yan Zhike knows us? Why did she greet us?" Tao Xiaofei asked in surprise. Chao Lele was also confused. Maybe she knows me," Qiu Hailin said with uncertainty. As the class leader of the 4th class, she had met Yan Zhike several times. Jiang Fei closed his mouth tightly, afraid that he would accidentally reveal something. The miserable state of the iron chain was still vivid in his mind. "Sister Lele, is that your classmate? She's so beautiful. She's much prettier than the internet celebrity." Qi Yunfei and Chen Xiaoxiao also noticed Yan Zhike waving her hand. Qi Fang smiled and said, "That girl is very pretty. That's your daughter-in-law," Jiang Fei secretly complained. Sitting in his seat, Lu Qing didn't care about other people's gazes. He smiled and watched Yan Zhike tell the story of her parents behind her. "Does this count as meeting the parents?" He smiled and typed on the keyboard. At this moment, the guest drew the first contestant. Number 18, Lu Qing. Lu Qing raised his head and looked at the arena. Yan Shaoling and the others also focused their eyes. They swore that if the result was wrong, they would start to slander the committee. The guest drew Lu Qing's opponent. Number 6 seed, Meng Jiefeng. Chapter 266. Number 6 seed. Qi Fang's eyebrows relaxed, as if a huge stone had been lifted from her heart. In her simple opinion, since her son had defeated the number 5 seed, how could the number 6 seed be a problem? "Oh, I prayed to the Bodhisattva today. It worked." She patted Lu Jisheng beside her with a smile. There was no competition during the day, so the group of relatives and friends turned into a tourist group in Gaofun. "Superstition," Lu Jisheng muttered, but he could not hide the smile on his face. Chao Lele, Qiu Hailin, and the others had similar thoughts. They felt that the draw was not bad, and this opponent should not be as good as Qiu Lin. They were in a good mood, eagerly looking forward to the start of the competition. Only Jiang Fei felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. He wanted to help Cheng show off that Yan Zhike was his girlfriend. "Why can't you be more honest? For the sake of friendship, I've suffered too much." Number 6 seed, Meng Jiefeng. Yan Zhike puffed up her cheeks. She felt that this opponent was neither good nor bad. She could only say that he was better than Han Zhifei or Zhang Zhutong. "Ku, your man is so lucky. He's the number 6 seed. Meng Jiefeng must be weaker than Qiu Lin, right?" Gu Shuang said excitedly, but her tone gradually became unsure, because Yan Zhike and Xing Jingjing's eyes seemed to be saying, "You look like a retard." Xing Jingjing answered concisely, "Not much weaker. His fighting style is more dangerous." "Sister Jingjing, he has made a lot of progress in the past 6 months?" Yan Zhike asked with concern. The reason why she asked Xing Jingjing was that Meng Jiefeng was a rising star in the Gaofan police system. He was an 8th pin expert. Usually, except for the martial arts competition in the system, he rarely participated in various kinds of challenge tournaments. Fighting videos were quite difficult to find. Moreover, since this year's spring festival, he had not fought in public until this year's youth tournament. Xing Jingjing thought for a while and answered, "Yes, I heard that. His fighting style is more dangerous." She emphasized the word sinister again. After Meng Jiefeng graduated from the martial arts school, he joined the army first. He made a great contribution and was rewarded with the Cold Wind Force from the incomplete chapter of the Plague Sect. When fighting against him, the enemy would often become weaker and weaker. Furthermore, if they were not careful, even if they won, their bodies would be weakened afterwards, and they would catch a cold or have a fever. People gave them the nickname of influenza virus. Other than the Cold Wind Force, no one knew if there were any other martial arts techniques recorded in the Plague Sect. Anyway, he had never used them in the challenge tournament. He had always been using the gold and jade body, and the modern Xing in Jianghu. Thinking of this, Yenjika couldn't help but feel a little worried. She picked up her phone and sent what Xing Jingjing had told her to Lu Cheng. 6th seed? In the living room of the Lu family, Lu Debong cheered up. He picked up the phone next to him, dialed the number, and laughed loudly. "Oh, old Lu, are you watching TV? Are you watching? Have you watched Xing Province Satellite TV? It's broadcasting my grandson's competition. It's the youth tournament, a provincial tournament for young martial artists. He's already in the top 8, and he's up against some 6th seed. Which grandson? Cheng from the Jisheng family. Old Zhu, didn't I mention this to you before? Look at Xing Province Satellite TV. Cheng is here." Old Mr. and Mrs. Lu informed their relatives and friends one by one. They were so excited that their faces were rosy. Wang Lily pulled Lu Jiqiang and whispered, "Why don't you tell old Exin and the others? This is also a good thing for our family. Wei Wei will have more confidence when he goes on a blind date in the future." What's there to say? What if he loses? Lu Jiqiang never had anything good to say. Lu Yanwei sat in the single-seater sofa nearby, feeling the liveliness in the living room. For a moment he felt like he was dreaming. Isn't the life I've been dreaming of Cheng's? I can see hope and a better future. In the high school group chat, Du Liu, whose nickname was Little Xin, sent a link. "Everyone, go and support Cheng. He's up against the 6th seed in the top 8. "What the hell?" Tong Hua, his former deskmate, asked blankly. Before Du Liu could answer, Jiang Fei, who had been patient for a long time, said, "Cheng, that's Lu Cheng. He's taking part in the provincial youth tournament. He's already in the top 8. "Really? Really?" Xiong Tao asked in surprise. "The provincial young warrior champion competition? That sounds like a very high standard. When Lu Cheng was in high school, he was good at studying, but he was not good at sports." "It's true. I'm totally in awe of Cheng." Qin Rui, who was with the Gushan Martial Arts School in another stand, echoed. With a recognized master like him as a witness, the students of Class 4 were skeptical for a moment. They clicked on the link and buffered the data. Lu Cheng's fan forum was as lively as it had been since this morning. The returnees, led by Nye Chichi, and all good names are taken by dogs, expressed that they were very happy to see the familiar moderator of the forum, Eternal Nightfall, and the lovely girl, Brahmin. They would support Lu Cheng and continue to cheer for him. Bull Demon King and Naive, who joined because of the conspiracy, were disdainful of the result of the draw. They thought it was inevitable that things would get out of hand. They hoped Lu Cheng could defeat his opponent and enter the top 4 smoothly. Bad Girl and Scheming Bitch, as well as other conspiracy theorists, used the result of the draw to slap the faces of the conspirators, saying that there was no bullying and that it was all Lu Cheng's hype. They hoped that he would catch a cold and be seriously ill. Looking at the continuous chaos in the forum, the onlookers, Eternal Nightfall, Brahmin, Unparalleled Dragon King, and Okamoto's fan, all sighed and wanted to return to the harmonious and stable situation in the past. As die-hard fans, Eternal Nightfall and Brahmin both admitted that they were weak. Because it was the first match, Lu Cheng and Yenjika didn't discuss for long before the singing and dancing ended. The ring was cleaned up and the referee walked up. He had to put down his phone, calm his mind and focus on improving his condition. The first match, Lu Cheng versus Meng Jiefeng. The referee glanced at the electronic clock and gestured to both sides. Lu Cheng had the impulse to wave to Yenjika in the stands, but he restrained himself when he thought of her special reminder and felt the focus of the camera. He couldn't show his affection in front of the TV audience, or his father-in-law would kill Gaofan tonight with a knife. Recalling Yenjika's kiss of encouragement in the evening, he took a deep breath and walked along the road of light to the stone steps under the illumination of the big lights. During this process, he was like a newly bought car. Every step he took was equivalent to a trip. His body and mind were gradually getting used to each other and his momentum was slowly rising. When he stepped on the ring, there was a series of explosive sounds in his body, either crisp or low. His bones and tendons were crying at the same time, rising steadily. Such power made the audience hold their breath and feel that Lu Cheng, the number 18 player, seemed to be a little taller. Meng Jiefeng was of medium height, with short hair and strong eyes. Wearing a dark blue martial arts suit, he looked a little charming. He stepped on the ring almost at the same time as Lu Cheng. He stood straight and restrained his momentum, not tit for tat. The referee raised his right hand and exhaled, "Talk time starts now." Meng Jiefeng looked at Lu Cheng with a smile. "You must be under a lot of pressure, right?" "It's normal." Lu Cheng answered without humility. "No, you're lying." Meng Jiefeng's eyes suddenly became sharp, as if he was interrogating a criminal. "You're afraid that you'll be affected by my cold wind force and fall sick after the match. If you lose to your opponent in the semifinals tomorrow, you won't be able to enter the finals. In that case, you won't be able to prove your strength. Everyone will think that you're a scheming villain who made it to the semifinals by some unscrupulous trick." He wanted to plant the seed of indecisiveness in his opponent's heart, make him make a mistake in judgment, and make him hesitate. "I have a clear conscience. What others say doesn't affect me at all." Lu Cheng said frankly, "If there is an opponent, I will challenge him face to face. If there is a smear, I will also challenge him face to face. I will fight back with victory again and again. This is my martial arts creed. It may not be mature, but at least it's my true thought. When I step on the ring, I will only think about the opponent in front of me. I will use all my strength to welcome him and defeat him. This is the greatest respect for him. As for the later matches and the final impact, it's not within my consideration." Because of the disturbance before the match, he had some feelings. With the help of this conversation, he sorted out his thoughts. In actual combat, the more you are afraid of something, the more likely it is to happen. He had to be firm in his thinking. Meng Jiefeng narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, "I hope you can remember what you said just now." He didn't say anything more. He didn't want to overdo it. After a while, the referee confirmed the time, raised his right hand again, and swung it down fiercely. "Begin." Meng Jiefeng's muscles and fascias suddenly swelled, stretching his martial arts suit. Visible to the naked eye, his blood vessels and tendons were protruding. They were dark blue like iron, making his skin as hard and cold as metal. "Golden jade body" was just a way to describe it. Meng Jiefeng took a step forward. With his back as the axis, he twitched the fascias on the side and opened his right arm. Bam! His neck suddenly became thick, rubbing against the air and making an explosive sound. The dark blue blood vessels and fascias seemed to outline a horrifying pattern. Bam! With a series of crisp sounds, his right fist swung out as his body rushed forward at a high speed. Lu Cheng's heart was as cold as ice. As his thoughts flashed, he shifted his center of gravity, straightened his spine, and jumped back. After stepping into the dance stage, his condensation stance seemed to have improved because of the wonderful feeling. It didn't mean that he had a premonition or the absolute reaction to malice, but it helped his mind to be clearer, his vision to be more direct, and his judgment to be more accurate. Seeing his opponent retreating, Meng Jiefeng stepped on the ground and followed up with the help of the accurate rebound force. However, just as his body was about to leap forward, Lu Cheng suddenly stopped. He lowered his center of gravity and exerted strength in his footsteps. In a split second, he turned from retreating to advancing. He expanded his back muscles and punched out his right fist. A ferocious counterattack. He grasped the timing so well that Meng Jiefeng's punch was very awkward because he had used up all his strength and hadn't used up all his strength yet. Meng Jiefeng took a breath, slightly retracted his strength, and then released it. This made his right fist strangely retracted, and his left arm became bigger. He swung it out horizontally, and the dark blue pattern on his neck became more obvious. This was the application of the strength of the whole body as one. Seeing that his arm was about to hit his opponent's fist, Lu Cheng suddenly shifted his center of gravity again, dragging his arm that was actually swung out. He changed his position abruptly, disappeared from Meng Jiefeng's sight, and flashed to his back. In this abrupt process, Lu Cheng's strength changed smoothly, so that his twisted movements were smooth and natural. Dance stage. In the TV broadcast room, guest commentator Yu Hong seemed to exclaim. Dan stage. Zhang Zhutong didn't go back to the lounge, but stood on the sidelines, exhaling. What he didn't want to see happened. In one match after another, Lu Cheng maintained his high-speed growth, shortening the time needed to grind, and became a real Dan stage mighty one. Once he was behind his opponent, Lu Cheng straightened his back without hesitation, so that his right fist could be regenerated. With his tightened muscles and the thundercloud in his mind, he smashed towards Meng Jiefeng's spine. Bam! The wind was so strong that Meng Jiefeng's hair stood on end, and he felt a little pain and numbness. But he didn't look panicked, and instead, he raised the corner of his mouth. Good, you're behind me now. Suddenly, an evil bell engraved with patterns appeared in his mind. Buzz. His abdomen wriggled, and his internal organs were stimulated. A low, inaudible, evil sound came from his throat. When Lu Cheng's fist was about to hit, his ears moved, and his head suddenly throbbed. His arm couldn't help but soften. Chapter 267. Ever since he was a child, Lu Cheng, who was considered healthy, had never experienced what it meant to have a splitting headache. But at this moment he suddenly understood the meaning of these 4 words. In the arena, in the middle of a battle, without any warning, it was as if he suddenly had an acute illness. No, it was not an acute illness. He remembered the changes in his ears and instantly realized what was going on. It was the unique skill of the plague sect. It was the unique skill of the plague sect that gave people headaches when they couldn't hear it. And the opponent would definitely take advantage of your illness to kill you. At this moment, Meng Jiefeng pursed his lips and his eyes flashed with a strong desire to fight. He turned his waist and kicked his right leg from the bottom to the top, like a scorpion swinging its tail. One of the most common mistakes made by fighters who were close to or had just entered the Dan stage was to think that they could respond with force concentration at any time. It was true that they could reduce the effect of the headache by shrinking their qi and blood. But at such a distance, blindly using force concentration was equivalent to being a human sandbag. Even if the force of an ordinary attack would be reduced, and it would be difficult to directly break the attack and defense of force concentration, I can still kick your vital parts. Bam! His dark blue trousers tightened in an instant, and his whole right leg seemed to have become thicker. He whipped the air between Lu Cheng's legs. Horseback kick, scorpion swings its tail. Lu Cheng just woke up, and the scene of the life and death battle with the professional 9th pin of the dark sect flashed in his mind. His hair stood on end, and he seemed to have stepped back into the dangerous situation where he could lose his life in 3 to 5 moves. There was no fear, no panic, and no hesitation. His heart was as cold as ice, so he calmly made a decision. He moved his arm joints and stretched his fascia. In a very short distance, he flicked his 5 fingers and grabbed Meng Jiefeng's back, tearing his dark blue martial arts suit. Clang! Meng Jiefeng reacted immediately. His skin swelled like iron and blocked the claw that could break a metal chain. Lu Cheng didn't expect to break the defense of the golden jade body at once. The force at his fingertips was smooth and transparent, and the claw became a press. He pressed down. Under the pressure, Meng Jiefeng's center of gravity sank, and the power of his right leg almost dissipated halfway. It slowed down for a moment, then slowed down for a moment, then whistled again. With the help of the rebound from the downward press, Lu Cheng endured the headache, swayed his center of gravity, and forcibly turned his body sideways, narrowly avoiding the deadly horse kick. He also took advantage of the momentum to bounce back a few steps, widening the distance between them. He gathered his qi and blood, gathered his strength, and concentrated all the sensations of the headache into one. Beautiful! Attack as defense, advance as retreat. Caught off guard, Lu Cheng's response was too beautiful. In the TV broadcast room, when Lu Cheng flicked his 5 fingers, guest commentator Yu Hong praised, "You can watch the replay later." Meng Jiefeng's abdomen swelled and his throat squirmed. Obviously, he used a sound skill that is hard to hear. If I'm not wrong, it should be the pain chime of the plague sect's chime of the bell. He has never used it before, so it's impossible to guard against it. In this situation, Lu Cheng, who has a headache, can still make such a response, which shows his actual combat ability. He suddenly paused, because Meng Jiefeng didn't look disappointed after his kick missed. He turned around and faced Lu Cheng. When Lu Cheng was about to use the force concentration, his eyes turned dark again, his abdomen swelled, and his throat trembled. Together with the chime of the chime, he made an invisible sound. Buzz. The blood vessels on Lu Cheng's forehead throbbed, and his head hurt again. His spirit was also affected, and his attempt to use the force concentration was disrupted before it was completed. The sound skill of the plague sect not only attacked the body, but also the spirit. Meng Jiefeng used the headache chime twice in a row. Even with the physique of the Dan stage, his face turned pale. Taking advantage of the chaos in his opponent's body, he took a deep breath, bulged his temples, and flushed his skin. Boom! As if there was gunpowder exploding in his body, he swung his right arm backward and shot forward, driving his body to break the airflow and shortening the distance. Like a cannonball, he blasted toward Lu Cheng's chest and abdomen. This is the modern blast punch, mixed with the tremor punch. I came to this youth tournament with the intention of entering the top 4 and creating an upset. The backlash from the disruption of force concentration made it impossible for Lu Cheng to make similar attempts for a short period of time. He didn't have time to dodge or move away either. Facing the fierce fist, he took a short breath to stabilize his chi and blood. He visualized a scene of dark clouds and thunder. Bam! The muscles of his hand, wrist, forearm, and upper arm tightened. He swung his shoulder and punched with his right fist. Seabit quake. Tremor punch versus tremor punch. Bang! An explosion came from the smokeless arena, blowing wind and waves in all directions. Lu Cheng's chi and blood were tumbling, and his internal organs were stimulated. He felt so uncomfortable that his throat was dry and his mind was dizzy. Meng Jiefeng also had a similar feeling, but since he practiced the gold and jade body, he was much more resistant than his opponent. His abdomen shrank, and his neck became thicker again. Blue and black veins bulged out, weaving into a strange pattern. Bam! He didn't retreat. His swollen left arm fiercely punched out, his fist glowing with a blue and black luster. Lu Cheng was afraid of being affected by his opponent's unique skill of the plague sect, so he didn't dare to use the force concentration before he completely recovered. He only used the internal training method to control his internal organs, compress his muscles, and create a reverse shock to counteract the attack. In a hurry, he crossed his arms in front of him to block Meng Jiefeng's fist. With a whistling sound, Lu Cheng only felt that his opponent's fist was hot and cold, which made his body feel empty all of a sudden, as if he had been hit by a dark wind. He couldn't help but shiver, as if he was about to fall ill. Cold wind force? He thought of something and didn't hesitate anymore. He visualized the scene of a red sun falling to the ground and smashing into the frozen river. He didn't have time to prepare for the severe warning, but that wasn't his goal. According to the discussion before the competition, he used visualization to drive the collision between the frost and the flame to create the explosion of the supernatural ability and disperse the strange force invading his body. Ice and fire strangulation. Boom! Lu Cheng's face alternated between red and blue. The cold current and the hot wave mixed and surged out, completely eliminating the feeling of emptiness. However, Meng Jiefeng couldn't just watch him recover, so he kept on attacking him without any interruption. As soon as the cold wind force came out, he got rid of the negative status of the continuous use of the headache buzzing. He planted his feet, lowered his waist, and used the force concentration. Boom! The force gushed out. Meng Jiefeng's skin propped up, showing the blue and black color. He took a step forward with a slightly taller posture, bent his back, and flicked out his right arm. He made it connect the joints and expand gradually, as if it had turned into a long spear. Pulley, pulley! Lu Cheng had just gotten rid of the influence of the cold wind force, and now he was facing this seemingly invincible attack. Under normal circumstances, a normal Dan stage fighter wouldn't have time to use the force concentration to resist. Failure was close at hand. However, Lu Cheng took a breath and immediately restrained his chi, blood, force, and spirit. However, he didn't try to go to the extreme, nor did he try to condense it into a point. Instead, he hugged a half-formed Dan in a fast way. It contained a way to balance and a way to rotate. The half-formed, human body Big Dan first solidified and then exploded, surging out a strong wave. This is also possible. The guest commentator Yu Hong whispered to himself. This seemed to be an attempt by a martial artist to imitate the force concentration, but in fact, it was different from them. Except for the fact that the power was much weaker, it was no different from the real force concentration. In a flash, Lu Cheng completed the half-formed explosion of the Dan stage. His muscles swelled rapidly and he leaned forward. He swung his shoulders and punched down. Bam! When the two fists collided, Meng Jiefeng leaned back again. His arm muscles stretched so much that his sleeves were about to burst. He gave full play to the pulley force. Lu Cheng's half-formed explosion was obviously weaker than Meng Jiefeng's full strength. After being hit by the pulley force, he couldn't stabilize his center of gravity and was thrown into the air. From the beginning, he had been passive all the time. Between life and death, every move was fatal. Yenjika unconsciously covered her mouth, afraid that she would call out Lu Cheng's name. Before the carp leaping over Dragon Gate, a martial artist who didn't have the supernatural ability to fly was forced to leave the ground. This meant that he would soon lose the match. Meng Jiefeng had been hiding his strength in the previous matches, but now he was showing his true strength. Awesome! Zhang Zhutong smiled with a complicated tone. Meng Jiefeng was much stronger than before. If Lu Cheng hadn't encountered him, Zhang Zhutong would have been forced into a passive position. Lu Cheng wasn't the only one who could surprise others. Qiu Lin could do it, and so could Meng Jiefeng. After sending Lu Cheng flying with one move, Meng Jiefeng once again concentrated his qi in his dantian and made a double explosion. Crack! With a cracking sound, he pounced on Lu Cheng like a cannonball. At this time, Lu Cheng had just adjusted his center of gravity and was still 2 meters away from the ground. If he hadn't blocked the attack with his half-formed explosion, he wouldn't have been able to adjust his center of gravity. Seeing Meng Jiefeng standing below and waiting for a chance to make a move, Lu Cheng took a deep breath and adjusted his center of gravity so that his upper body leaned down. Then he seized the short time to adjust his muscles and prepare. In his mind, he visualized the scene of the red sun falling into the frozen river. Come on! Accept the severe warning. Seeing Lu Cheng was about to land on his head, Meng Jiefeng suddenly smiled and stepped to the side of his opponent's feet. It's not like I haven't seen the fight between you and Qiu Lin. It's not like I don't know that you have a simplified physical invulnerability move. How can I fight you head-on when you have time to prepare? Meng Jiefeng's joints were accumulating strength, and the fascia on his wrist and fingers were protruding. The eagle claw broke through the air and the spear finger blocked the rear. Lu Cheng wasn't disappointed by his opponent's caution. Taking advantage of the time when his opponent moved, he made a force concentration in midair. His body suddenly curled up into a ball with the convergence of his qi, blood, force, and spirit. Then, he quickly stretched his body in the air and kicked out his right foot fiercely with the help of the explosive force of the Dan stage. Bam! His right foot kicked Meng Jiefeng's eagle claw. Using the rebound, he straightened his body and kicked out his left foot toward his opponent's throat, as if he wanted to use it as a fulcrum to fly to a higher level. Flying to the moon. Meng Jiefeng was shaken by Lu Cheng's Dan stage kick. He deeply felt that if it weren't for the fact that Lu Cheng was in midair and couldn't fully exert his strength, he would have taken a few steps back and lost the opportunity to win. When Lu Cheng landed on the ground, he would have made 2 force concentrations and let out 2 headache noises. It would be very difficult for him to defeat his opponent who could still make several consecutive bursts. He raised his left arm and blocked Lu Cheng's foot. Following that, he flipped and pushed, leveraging on Lu Cheng's strength to make his opponent fly higher. Lu Cheng used this opportunity to swing his body and jump forward. He flipped over his opponent's head and dived into the distance like a big bird, looking for the support of the ground. But Meng Jiefeng swung his center of gravity and took 3 steps back. Once again, he seized the position. He took a deep breath, condensed his qi and blood, and made a force concentration. Bam! His temples bulged, and his waist and back twitched, making a rocket-like rocket cannon. A real cannonball. While he was making a force concentration, Lu Cheng also made a force concentration. He condensed his qi and blood and accelerated his fall as if he had used 1,000 pounds drop. Boom! At that point of explosion, Lu Cheng suddenly tightened his martial arts suit and reached out his right hand to grab his opponent's fist. Bam! His blood vessels and tendons were protruding, trembling involuntarily under the impact of the explosion. But his 5 fingers firmly grasped his opponent's right fist. Buzz! While operating the internal training method to eliminate the vibration, Lu Cheng heard his opponent's movements with the help of the great success of meditation. He was going to make a left punch, seabed collapse. Lu Cheng's 5 fingers changed from grasping to pressing. His body bounced up and avoided Meng Jiefeng's consecutive attacks in time. Then he seized the opportunity to lower his center of gravity and finally landed on the ground before his opponent kicked out his right leg. With his feet on the ground, Lu Cheng took a deep breath and made a force concentration again, swinging his left arm back. Double explosion. At such a close distance, Meng Jiefeng had no other choice but to make a second double explosion. His temples bulged and he made a modern blast punch to meet Lu Cheng head-on. Bam! Both of them trembled at the same time. Meng Jiefeng resisted with his golden jade body, while Lu Cheng completed another force concentration to recover completely. Triple explosion. He was going to suppress his opponent with continuous explosions. The unique skills of the Plague Sect were very powerful, but I won't give you a chance to use them. Bam! Unable to keep up with the rhythm, Meng Jiefeng's arms trembled, his qi and blood rolled, and he lost his center of gravity. Lu Cheng took the opportunity to catch up with him. He circled around his opponent and swung his arms. Ding, ding, ding. 1 shock, 2 shocks, 3 shocks. Lu Cheng hit the metal with his fists and continuously made Thunder Zen, not giving Meng Jiefeng a chance to recover and use the unique skills of the Plague Sect. 4 shocks. 5 shocks. 6 shocks. Lu Cheng stretched out his body like the thunder god descending to earth. He punched his enemy's shoulder with his right fist from above. Ding! A crisp sound echoed. Meng Jiefeng staggered, but he didn't suffer any external injuries. Instead, he fell to the ground in dizziness. Lu Cheng was so excited that he wanted to give him 2 more Thunder Zen, but was stopped by the referee. Lu Cheng wins. His voice reverberated far and wide, and the audience actually felt a sense of contentment. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.